Over 1.5 billion websites are present in the world right now, and 95% of all are using JavaScript in one way or the other. Think of a website, and 99% chances are you thought of a website that uses JavaScript. Is JavaScript necessary for web development? Well, JavaScript is like a magical spell primarily used to make websites do cool things. Imagine you are playing a video game and want to make the character jump really high and shoot fireballs. That's what JavaScript does for websites. It makes pictures move, buttons change color, and forms work. Think of it as the magic that makes websites fun and interactive. Hey everyone, and you are already watching SimpliCode. According to the responses in the poll we created last week, JavaScript obtained 46% of the total votes. So as promised, here we are with a proper full week plan for JavaScript. This is part 1, and in this tutorial, we are going to cover all the basics of JavaScript. We'll start this video with an introduction to JavaScript, followed by the reasons to learn JavaScript. We then look at what Document Object Model or DOM means, followed by a small walkthrough to setting up JavaScript on your system using VS Code and running your first Hello World program. We then dive into the foundational concepts like JavaScript statements, comments, variables, and data types, followed by more intricate topics like control statements, type conversion, and loops. And we'll end this session by learning about functions in JavaScript. So, what's better than learning JavaScript in a week? Subscribing to SimpliCode, of course, since we upload programming-related content every day. Hit the bell icon to get notified whenever we drop a new video. So, let's get started.
JavaScript was developed in the year 1995 by a person named Brendan Eich. Brendan was working for Netscape Communications while he developed JavaScript in 10 days. There were a few changes in the name of JavaScript. Initially it was Mocha, which was later changed to LiveScript, and then it finally became JavaScript. The start of JavaScript wasn't that good, as so many developers who were using Java at that time. They considered JavaScript as a language for designers and non-engineers. No one ever knew that this small side scripting language would have a great future. Today, more than 90% of the websites out there, they are using JavaScript somehow. Many of you guys gets confused with Java and JavaScript. Let me clear it for you that both Java and JavaScript, they are different languages. They have almost nothing in common. Many people say that JavaScript was named after Java as a part of a marketing strategy to gain wider acceptance and recognition. In 1995, Java was a buzzword when JavaScript was developed. That's why they renamed JavaScript after Java. Let's move on to what is JavaScript. Have you guys ever been through a website where you can see images that slides automatically? One such website is Amazon. The home page of Amazon, where we can see different types of ongoing sales, is an example of JavaScript. In layman language, JavaScript is a lightweight scripting language used to make web pages more interactive and more lively. Earlier, when JavaScript was developed, it was only a side scripting language to do basic tasks like you can add pop-ups in your web page or you can make your web page more interactive. Nothing more than that. But now, the whole scenario has changed. With the help of JavaScript, we can create applications as well. If we talk about applications, let's take an example. Let's suppose we want to create an app. We can create it in Android or in iOS. But we have to learn few different languages to create those apps. For Android, we have to learn Java and XML, and Swift we have to learn for iOS. But with the help of JavaScript, you can create hybrid applications which can work on any platform without any problem. Tech giants like Google, PayPal, Amazon, and YouTube, they are using JavaScript these days. The evolution of JavaScript in the past few years was unbelievable. Suppose you want to create a single page website. Every one of us is familiar with Gmail, let's suppose. So Gmail is a single page website which looks more like a desktop software than a website. So Gmail is based on Angular.js. It is a popular framework by Google which is free of cost, and it is totally based on JavaScript. Now let's go over some of the features of JavaScript. These features are actually why it is considered that using JavaScript is advantageous over other languages. So let's start with some of these points. JavaScript is not a proper programming language. Indeed, it is a scripting language which works in the runtime environment just like Python. So there are few other languages like C++ and Java. They need a compiler to work. But with JavaScript, you don't need a compiler. Once you are done with the script, it will interpret and show you the output in the browser directly. Next up is lightweighted. JavaScript can provide programming facility to some extent. In JavaScript, you don't need to specify any data type or return type, which helps in making development more quicker. That's why it is known as lightweighted. JavaScript is both client-side as well as server-side technology. Client-side technology runs on the user's computer, whereas the server-side technology runs on the web browser. Initially, when JavaScript was introduced, it was introduced as a client-side technology. But with the introduction of Node.js in 2009, one can now work in the backend as well. There is a way to validate the user's data before sending it to the web server, and we can do that with the help of JavaScript. The data will be checked for correct form and value. All we have to do is start a loop, give it the condition to check the data. JavaScript is also platform independent, although originally designed to work on browsers only, but now it is a platform independent language, which means once you are done with the script, you can use it on any browser or platform without any problem. JavaScript is an object-based scripting language, although many programmers do not consider JavaScript as a true object-oriented programming language due to its lack of class concept. It does support other features of object-oriented programming, like it supports encapsulation, it supports polymorphism, and also it supports prototypal inheritance. The last but not the least feature of JavaScript is case sensitive. So when it comes to keywords, identifiers, names and functions, JavaScript differentiates between capital and lowercase letters. We have to keep this in mind while programming. Now I will quickly go over some of the JavaScript applications where JavaScript is currently being implemented. First one that comes to every person's mind is web development. It was also the main motive behind developing JavaScript. We have technologies like Angular, we have Node.js, we can create beautiful web pages. Also, JavaScript can be used along with HTML and CSS to make those static looking web pages more engaging. If we talk about other applications of JavaScript, we can use it in app development, either mobile app or web app. Like we took the example before that how hybrid apps made with the help of JavaScript can take over traditional Android and iOS app. One of the most important and unique application of JavaScript is in smartwatches. The Bangle.js is an open sourced smartwatch powered by JavaScript. Gordon Williams, the man who is currently working on this project, it is said that this new open sourced stack built around JavaScript will replace the onboard firmware soon. The next application of JavaScript is client-side validation. As we discussed earlier, JavaScript is used to validate the user data, whether the user's input is correct or not, by cross-checking it with the given condition. Like the user wants to enter in your website and you want it to be a user with @gmail.com in his email ID. So you will give that condition to JavaScript and it will cross-check it with the user's information. Like when the user will try to enter in your website, it will check that if @gmail.com is there or not in the user's email ID. So it can validate the user also. Apart from that, one more application of JavaScript is game development. JavaScript can be used to make fully fledged 2D or 3D games using different libraries. Although most JavaScript game development focuses on creating games used in browsers only. Till now we have an idea about what JavaScript is, its features and its applications. So if you want to learn JavaScript, you need to do some basic things to make your learning experience more smoother. Let's take a look at the prerequisites to use JavaScript. The first one is the basic knowledge of HTML and CSS. To use JavaScript along with HTML and CSS, you first need to know how HTML and CSS works. See, HTML is used to create the structure of a web page, while CSS is used to style that web page. In order to use these two with JavaScript, you need to have the basic knowledge of HTML and CSS, because if you want to learn a new language, first of all, you need to know why to use that technology. And to learn JavaScript more efficiently, you need to have the basic knowledge of HTML and CSS. It's better to have a web browser that supports JavaScript like Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, or you can use Safari as well if you are using a MacBook. You will need an operating system like Windows, Linux or Mac operating system to learn JavaScript. A computer with minimum 512 MB of RAM would be enough for you to start learning JavaScript. But I will recommend you a computer with 1 GB of RAM or 4 GB of RAM for a better experience. You can use any text editor. You have Notepad, which is free and is already available for Windows. If you don't want to use Notepad, you can use other free softwares like Sublime, or you can use Visual Code. In this particular course, we will be using Visual Code, and I'll tell you how to install Visual Code and what are the features of Visual Code. Also, suppose you do not have any prior knowledge about JavaScript, don't worry about it. We will take you through the whole course and we will ensure that you can understand JavaScript. Let's start this video with some facts about JavaScript. JavaScript is the only programming language that a browser can understand. 25 years ago, when developers were thinking about a language that a browser can understand, there were a few languages that were present in the market at that time, just like Java. Still, there were some problems with these languages. That these languages need a server to work with the browser. JavaScript, on the other hand, can work directly with the browser. You write the code in the editor, the browser will go through it, it will interpret it, and then runs the program. The popularity of JavaScript increased with time. Being a language which can do so many tasks, whether it be designing a website's front end or going through any website's backend, JavaScript can do anything. By the end of 2018, over 95% of the internet was powered by JavaScript. Means almost every website out there is using JavaScript in some way or another. Do you guys know about Stack Overflow, a website for every programmer? Don't worry, you'll get to know about it once you start with the programming part. Stack Overflow states that JavaScript is the most popular programming language used by the developers. Let me quickly run you through the reasons why one should learn JavaScript, and then we'll briefly elaborate each of these reasons. JavaScript has the most powerful frameworks. JavaScript is constantly growing and is a well-paid job. JavaScript is beginner friendly and it has the largest community. JavaScript provides wide range of usage as well. Let's move on further and see why each of these reasons is important. JavaScript has the most powerful frameworks for every task a user wants to do. Like for designing a single page website, like you want to design a website like Gmail, you can use Angular.js. If you want to design UI components or user interfaces for single page application, you have React.js. You want to develop a mobile or a desktop application, let's suppose, you have Vue.js for that as well. Basically, you can do anything with powerful JavaScript frameworks. Next up is constant growth. One of the main reasons behind one should learn JavaScript. JavaScript is one of the fastest growing languages and stands among the top 10 languages used by the developers. With so much increase in mobile market, mobile web development has seen an immense rise in need of interactivity, which is possible only with the help of JavaScript. That's why JavaScript is continuously growing and there is no way that JavaScript will go down shortly. The developers working in JavaScript are well paid across the world. Anyone who wants to be a web designer or a web developer needs to learn JavaScript. It is a must-have skill for being a good web developer. We will discuss it in JavaScript jobs section. JavaScript is an easy to learn language compared to many other programming languages like Java, Python and PHP. JavaScript provides easy entry points to the world of programming. The best thing about JavaScript is that it comes pre-installed on almost every web browser. So you don't need to set up any environment to start development in JavaScript, which means you can start coding right away. JavaScript has the largest community among all the programming languages out there. Community size does matter when it comes to programming language, because the larger the community size is, the more help you would be likely to get. Currently, JavaScript has the biggest Stack Overflow community. It has overtaken Java in terms of community size and is still growing at a rapid pace. Wide range of usage. In my opinion, one of the most important reasons why one should learn JavaScript, by knowing JavaScript, you can build an entire website from its backend to the front end. Apart from that, you can also build a full-fledged mobile application. For the backend, you don't need to learn other programming languages. Node.js is enough with a bit of knowledge about database and APIs. There is nothing you can't do with JavaScript when it comes to website development. Let's move on and discuss few jobs you can take up after learning JavaScript, and we'll also discuss their average salaries in USA and in India. So the first one is a full stack developer. A full stack developer is one of the highest paid jobs in web development sector. A full stack developer is equally proficient in client side as well as server-side development. A full-stack developer earns around 9 lakh per annum, which is quite a decent amount of money for a person living in India. But if you are a full-stack developer in US, you can earn up to $100,000 per annum, which is a huge amount. A front-end developer is the one who deals with the front end of any website or application. It's obvious that a front-end developer will not earn as much as a full-stack developer, but the amount of money a front-end developer earns in a year is decent. A JavaScript developer works on the front end and sometimes back end also. A JavaScript developer may be responsible for the whole website or just a few aspects or pages of different websites. They earn quite well when it comes to salary. A JS developer in US earns around $75,000 per annum, which when converted to Indian rupees sums around 55 lakhs approx, which is a huge amount. Designing a UI is an interesting job as it needs creativity along with skills. It's always fun to design interfaces to attract users. One should need a lot of creativity for this job. The amount of money a UI UX designer earns in India is around 7 lakh per annum, but it can go up as much as 20 lakh per annum, depends upon the skills possessed and creativity of the designer. So choose your career wisely. Let's start this video with the introduction to DOM. DOM stands for Document Object Model. It is an API for HTML and XML documents, which helps JavaScript to understand what is there written inside the HTML document. API stands for Application Programming Interface. To understand API better, let's take an example of a restaurant. Imagine yourself in the restaurant. You are sitting at the table with the menu. The chef in the kitchen is also part of the system. The waiter here works as a messenger between you and the chef. That's what API does. It works as a moderator between JavaScript and the HTML document. DOM defines the whole HTML document in a hierarchical form to make it understandable for JavaScript so that other JavaScript functions can work over it. It represents the entire document in the form of object and nodes. Whether it be elements or text or anything stored in the document, the entire page content can be accessed or manipulated by JavaScript. DOM is not used with JavaScript only. Other languages like Python also uses DOM. DOM was designed to be used independently. To begin with DOM, there is nothing special you have to do. Different browsers have different implementation of the document object model. Every browser uses DOM to make the web page of the document accessible by JavaScript. Let's move on and see what is document object model with the help of an example. I believe you guys have the basic knowledge of HTML and CSS, a prerequisite for this course. Let's start things off with a basic HTML example. Here we have a code that consists tags like HTML, head, body, heading tag, etc. We have the HTML tag here, the opening HTML tag and the closing HTML tag. Inside the HTML tag, we have the head tag, which contains the document's header part. Inside the head tag, there is a title tag that contains the title of the web page. Then comes the body tag, which contains a heading tag and two div tags with IDs as div1 and div2. A div tag defines a particular section in the HTML document. The ID used within the div tag, it is an attribute basically that has to be unique within the document to make the element unique from other elements. Next up, we have a paragraph tag with a class attribute within it. CSS and JavaScript uses classes to select and access specific elements. Don't worry guys if you have no idea about it. Let us first see the output of this code before going to the document object model of this whole document. So guys, this is the output of the previous code we just came through. Here we can see the title of the web page as well as heading after it. There were two different div tags used in the code. Here is the output of both the div tags. The question here is, where are those ID and class attributes seen in the output? The answer to this question is there's nothing on this web page that can show both of them. We can use them in our CSS file or through JavaScript to specify the containers in which they are used. So we have concluded how a normal document works and how the browser interprets the HTML code. But how JavaScript uses this code is a bit different. That's where DOM comes into play. When the actual HTML document is loaded in the browser, another representation of that document is created, known as document object model. Here's the model you can see on your screen. Each of the tags used in HTML document is correspondingly represented as objects in the DOM, like starting from the HTML tag and covering all the other tags like head, title, body, and few more. The same hierarchy as there was in the HTML document goes with the document object model also. Document object model is simply the same HTML document with different representation. The reason behind this different representation is that it's easy for JavaScript to interpret this format. JavaScript can't understand tags, but it can understand these objects. JavaScript can easily manipulate these objects using different functions, which we will see in future while working on these functions. For example, if you want to access the text present inside the heading tag, you can do it by accessing the heading tag with JavaScript. You can also work on the style of this text with the help of JavaScript as well. JavaScript uses the concept of nodes. It can access nodes of the document object model. There are many types of nodes present in the DOM. The basic three types are element node, attribute node, and text node. The element node consists of all the tags used in HTML document, like the head tag and the body tag. The attribute node contains the attributes used in HTML document. By now, I hope you have understood the concept of attributes. So JavaScript can access these attributes as well, and the user can work upon them as per requirements. The text here in the HTML document, that is simply. It can also be accessed with the help of JavaScript. It is the value of that particular element. For installing VS Code, let's discuss a few things about what is an IDE. So IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. It is a software application basically. It comprehends facilities to a programmer for software development. Just like Photoshop makes it easier for us to edit photos, in the same way, IDE makes it easier for a programmer to write code. If you want to write code, IDE will help you write that, and it will help you in software development. There are a number of IDEs present in the market today. We have Sublime, we have PyCharm, we have Komodo, we have Notepad and Notepad++ as well. But in this particular course, we will be using Visual Studio Code or VS Code we can say. So let me run you through some of the advantages that why we are using VS Code for this course. So first of all, VS Code is free to use as it is an open source software, so you can use it without any cost. It supports multiple programming languages. There is nothing like you need any web support or work on different editors for different programming. You can use VS Code for different languages. Extensions are also one of the main reasons behind using VS Code. See, you want to work on a programming language it does not support. All you have to do is add an extension, search for it, and you are good to go. It will also not affect the speed of the editor as it runs as a different process. It can also detect code snippet whether it is complete or not, like you are using a variable in your program and you forgot to declare it. VS Code will do it for you. This property is known as IntelliSense. Besides all these properties, one main key feature behind using VS Code is it is cross-platform. It is available for Mac, it is available for Linux and Windows as well. I think there are enough features we have discussed till now. There are many more features. We will discuss them while installing or while working in VS Code. So for now, let's move on to the installation process. The installation process for VS Code is pretty simple. Just go to Google and search for VS Code. The next page which will open, here you can see that the first link available is from their official website. Click on that and you will go to their official website. Here in the front you can see the download. You can download the stable version from here only. Or if you want to download it for your according to your PC's specifications, you can click on the download button present at the top right corner of your screen. Here you can see that VS Code is available for different platforms. It is available for Windows, for Linux and for Mac as well. You can download it from here as well. So if you want to download it for Windows, you can click here. It will take you to another page and it will start downloading VS Code. Once the download completes, open the setup file from your downloads and it will take you to the license agreement page. You have to agree with all the terms and conditions. You can go through the full license, but then it will take a lot of time to go through all this. Once you click on it, this window will open where you have to select the location you want your VS Code to locate. Any ID you install, the default location for all the editors is the same. You can click on browse and select any other location if you want. But for now I'll be leaving it as it is and I'll click on next. Now this will open and you will click next from here. Now it will ask you some questions like if you want to create a desktop icon or not. Select all of them and click on next. Now click on install and it will install VS Code for you. Sit back and relax, it will take time. So once you are done with the installation process, click on finish and the Visual Studio Code will start automatically. So here we are. You can see that we are on the welcome page. So let's start with these icons present on the left side of the editor. This icon here is Explorer. So VS Code works with the folders in your system. Click on open folder and just search any folder, or you can take any folder of your choice. So here in my PC I'll go to work and I'll take JavaScript as my folder. I'll select it and see, it will open the folder and I already have a few programs written over here like this, and I have a few more programs like this and this. You can open any program from that folder by using this Explorer option. You can open any program present in that folder. So basically what it does, any program you make in Visual Studio Code, you will save it in this folder only. So it will be easy for you to open any program anytime. Next up we have the search button to find any keyword or word present in your code. Whatever you write here, it will show you where it is present in your code or in your document. So let's suppose I write here Simplilearn. See, it will show you Simplilearn in your main screen. So you have a shortcut key for this also. Press Ctrl+F from your keyboard and write anything here. Like it's written Simplilearn here. Press enter and it will show you the result. The third option here is for version control. If you want to use any version control, like you want to use Git, VS Code has very good integration with Git. The next button here is for debug, or it will run your program. Once you are done with writing the code, click here and run and debug. Just open it with Chrome. You have a shortcut for this as well. Press F5 from your keyboard and it will do the same. The next button here is for extensions. Here you can find many extensions given by the VS Code community. They are free to use. For now, we will use these three extensions. The first one is HTML CSS support. Just click on the search button, write HTML CSS support. The first option, click on that and install that extension. Similarly, you have to install few more. You have to install JavaScript and TypeScript nightly. And you have to install live server in the same way. I'll tell you the use of live server in the next video when we will be writing our first Hello World program. Let me end this video by giving you a shortcut. Let's create a new file here. Click here, create a new file. Just close it. Create a new file. We will name it as new.html. So it's new.html here. One thing you have to keep in mind, while saving a file, make sure to save that file with .html extension. Here we are about to start writing our first program. So just write exclamation mark and press enter. It will do this. See, it will write the basic HTML code which you will need in almost every program from now on. So you don't have to write this code every time. Just do it this way and start writing main program. We are using VS Code Studio as our text editor to write the script here. We have already discussed the benefits as well as the features of VS Code in the previous video. So as I have already mentioned, you must have a web browser with JavaScript enabled in it. So if you are using Google Chrome, it's quite easy to enable JavaScript. Let me take you through it. Open Google Chrome, go to settings and just write JavaScript in the search option. Go to site settings and scroll down. You will find here JavaScript. Allow it if it's not allowed. In my case, it's already allowed, so I'm good to go. Once you have downloaded the editor and you are done with the environment setup and all, you can start writing the program. So let's go to VS Code. We will open a new file here and save it with a name. Let's open a new file and we will save it with name first.html. Make sure to save your file with .html extension, as it will make it easy for the computer to understand that this particular file is an HTML file. So in the last video, we installed an extension named Live Server. Let me tell you how to use it and what are the benefits of using Live Server. So let's write a basic HTML program, or just press the exclamation key and press enter. Here we are with the basic HTML program. We have not done anything yet, just edit it a little bit. We'll add a heading tag and inside the heading tag we will write a heading. Let's suppose we are writing hello. So now right click on your desktop and click on open with Live Server. What this will do, it will open your program in the browser. See, it's the basic thing. So let me tell you what its benefits are. It will open your program in the browser and whatever changes you are making in the programs will be directly shown in the browser the moment you save them. See, just use Google Chrome or whatever browser you are using and in the VS Code side by side. We'll be using it side by side now. Let's suppose we'll change something here. Let's add a word here, hello world. And the moment we save it, it will be reflected in your browser as well. So that's the benefit of using Live Server. We will be using it during our whole code. So now we are done with that. Let's start with the program. So here we are with our basic HTML code which has only tags in it. It will print nothing if I remove this heading tag. Let me remove it, and the moment I save it, it will print nothing. So guys, let me give you a brief introduction to these tags. These HTML tags are used to render HTML files properties so that the browser can differentiate between simple text and HTML tags. You can use as many tags according to your requirements. In our first program, we will write a single line statement over the browser. For that, we will need the script tag. Don't worry if you don't know much about script tag. Let me tell you briefly about this tag's functionality. It is used to embed a client-side script language. Remember guys, script tag is used to embed JavaScript with HTML. This is where HTML and JavaScript comes together. It may contain the scripting statements or point towards the external script through the src attribute. We will see the src attribute as well. We'll use the script tag inside the body tag, or we can use it wherever we want to use it. Like, it's not necessary to use it inside the body tag only. We can use it anywhere in a program. So let's start with this. First, let's start the script tag. We are done with it. Now the script tag, we have to type an attribute. The attribute is, the type is, it's a text file. We are done with our script tag. To write on the web page, we use a very basic command, the document.write. It is a JavaScript method using which you can print anything on the browser. Let's see what document.write can do. Let's write here something, document.write, and any text you want to write inside it. Let's suppose hello world, welcome to SimpliCode. So guys, we are done with this. We have written a text over here, hello world, welcome to SimpliCode. Let's see what will happen when we save it. Press Ctrl+S, and the moment you save it here, it will be reflected on your browser. Here you can see in our browser, it's written over here, hello world, welcome to SimpliCode. We can define JavaScript in an external file as well. Let's see how we can do this. How this script tag will point towards an external JavaScript file. Here what you have to do, you have written script, just before type, use an attribute src and give it the source of the file. But till now we don't have any JavaScript file, so let's create a file first. Name it as script.js. Remember, you have to save it with .js extension. We are done with it and we are good to go. So here we will write document.write and any text you want to write here. Hello world, welcome to Simplilearn. We will save it. The moment we will save it here, there's something wrong, I guess. Okay, we have not given the source code of that JavaScript. So here we will have to give the name of that file. It was script.js. Moment we will save it. See, the text is changed here. Initially it was hello world, welcome to SimpliCode, but now it is hello world, welcome to Simplilearn. This document.write is not interpreted by the browser. That's because this script tag is now pointing towards an external JavaScript file. Anything you will write inside this script tag will not be considered now. So we are done with this script tag here. We now have an idea of how to embed JavaScript with HTML. And now let's see some of the features of document.write. So let's suppose you have written this text here. Let's erase it and see what else it can do. Let's give it a task to add two numbers. Let's suppose we have given here 9 plus 3. Let's see if it works. See, it will give you the output directly here. Document.write 9 plus 3, it will give you the output as 12. Similarly, you will do any mathematical task, any calculation you want to do. Let's suppose 7 multiplied by 8. You can see here 12, 56, 12. Let's give it another one. 9 multiply 5 minus, let's suppose 3, and save it. See, 9 into 5 is 45, and if you minus 3 from 45 you will get 42. Here is the answer for as 42. 56 is for 7 into 8, 7 multiplied by 8, and 12 is for 9 plus 3. So with that we are done with how to embed with JavaScript with HTML. Let's move on to another concept in JavaScript, that is console.log. Console.log is a function in JavaScript that works the same as document.write, but it will not print anything in the browser. Let's give it a try. Let's clear this and suppose we write here console.log and give it a command. Save it and see, there is nothing printed on the browser. Let's write something in the body tag. We'll use a heading tag and write something here. Let's go again and go to body tag. We'll use a heading tag here as well and write something here. Let's suppose we write SimpliCode. Save it. See, this is printed on the browser. To open your browser's console, go to browser, right click here and go to inspect element, or you can use Ctrl plus Shift plus I, which I normally do. Here you can see the console option. See, it has many options like elements, consoles, sources, network, and many more. But for now, let's focus on console. Here you can see the text printed here. So what's the point of doing this? Whenever we write a code, we usually have many variables and functions and a lot of these kinds of things. We don't always know what to expect as the output. Maybe we expect a particular result, but we might get something else. One way of debugging our code is that we can pass a value to this function here only, and we can check the result of that value out of the code. Let's add two numbers here. So if you don't understand it, basically what we are doing for now, we are writing a small piece of code, like the program is not that big, but later on when we are good with JavaScript and we'll use JavaScript as a primary language, the size of the program will go longer and longer. So not every time you are supposed to check the output of your code by doing that only. So if you are using any variables or you are using any functions, you can check the output here only if you have to use that variable in that way or you have to change something. So you will get it here only. That's the use of console.log. Let's add two numbers. Remove it. A is equal to 5 and let B's value is 8, suppose. Okay, we are done with these two numbers, and we will write console.log. We have given it the command to add A and B. Let's see if it works here. See, the value of A plus B is 13. You can see it here in console. The value is 13. You can see it here. So here we can see that the output is 13. You can do any complex calculation here in the console. It will give you the correct answer. You can see here script.js colon 4. The number after the column is the line in script.js. Here in our file, we can see that the console.log command is in line number 4. So here it is written that it is line number 4 here. So if you click on this, you can see the script.js opened in a very small window, and you can edit it from here as well. So this is not a random line number. To prove this, let's go on to a program and let's move this to another line. See, now the console.log is in line 11. Save it, and here you can see this also changed to 11. So let's make this more complex. Add another variable c. We'll add another variable here. Let's suppose we add c here. We'll give it a more complex equation. Let's c equals to the moment we save it, it will give it the answer. Oh no, we are done with the equation. Let's change it here also. The value of c is, let's see if it works or not. Press Ctrl plus S, it's saved, and the value of c is 7. Let's see if this value is correct or not. The value of a was 5. 5 into 3 is 15. 15 plus 8 is 23. 23 plus 4 is 27. 27 plus a minus 25. Value of a is 5 minus 25 is minus 20. 27 minus 20. The value of c is 7. Say it's correct. Check it yourself if you can do something more interesting with this console.log, or you can do something more interesting with document.write. So console log allows us to debug our code, and we can use it if we are not sure about the output in a lengthy program. So let's move on to statements in JavaScript. So guys, whenever you use any programming language, you give the computer some instruction to perform any task or activity. That's common in all programming languages present out there. Like you are giving computers a few instructions to do a particular task. These instructions you are giving to the computer are known as statements. You see the code written over here. This document.write function is an instruction or statement given to the computer to write something on the browser. Like if you are writing hello world inside this function, it will print it in the browser as it is. And same for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and whatever you are writing inside it, it will basically print it on browser. Like let's suppose if we write here something else, let's suppose we write here inside double inverted comma, welcome to SimpliCode. We save it. We are basically giving it the instruction to write this on the browser. So what it will do, it will write it as it is on the browser. These are the instructions we are giving to a machine to perform a basic task or to perform a certain task. So if you are writing a whole program for designing a website or for anything, you must be using more than one statement. You will use a lot of statements in a single program. So all these statements are separated by semicolons. Like here you can see after every statement I have written a semicolon. It's necessary. Let me show you an example. See, we'll remove this statement and we'll copy this line and paste it in the next line and write something else here. What we can say, this is our first program we will write. Like suppose I've written it, I'll give it the semicolon here. The moment I'll save it, see, you can see here it's written that hello world, the first statement is interpreted and written over here. Then second it come to welcome to SimpliCode. See, here you can see that I have not written any semicolon, but it's still showing the output. So let me tell you something interesting. So if you remove the semicolon from any of these statements here, it will work fine, which means JavaScript will forgive you for these small errors you do. But it's always a good practice to put a semicolon after every statement, because while writing a whole program in future, you will use n number of statements. And let's see what happens if you try to write more than one statement in a single line without any semicolon. Let's do this thing here. Write more than one statement in a single line and I'll save it. See, it won't work. The moment I put a semicolon here and save it, it will work fine. So that's why I am saying that it is a good practice to use semicolon after each statement. Hope you guys are getting this. Let's move on to comments. So a comment is also common for almost all programming languages. It's a line in programming language which do not have any effect on the output of the program. See, it stays there in the code, but it does not affect the output by any means. A comment may be a multi-line comment or a single line comment as well. To write a single line comment, we just use double slash in front of that statement. Like here, if we see, the output is hello world, welcome to SimpliCode. This is our first program. So to make this first statement a comment, what we'll do, we'll use 2 forward slashes in front of it and it will become a comment. So the moment we will save it, this hello world is disappeared from the output. So this is how to use a single line comment. A comment won't affect your program by any means. Let's move on to multi-line comments. To write a multi-line comment, you have to use a forward slash along with the asterisk sign. See, if you want to make these 2 lines as comments, to end a comment, we will use asterisk sign with a forward slash. These 2 statements are comments now. So the moment you will save it, welcome to SimpliCode is also disappeared from the output. That's how comments work. They won't affect your program's output. But comments are very useful in programming. It's just a note for the programmers to remember what they did at that particular part of the program. Suppose you write a program. See here, the programs are not that large and the coding is not that much. But in future, when you write a program, maybe the program will be of more than 500 lines or more. So suppose you write a program with more than 500 lines and come back 20 days later. So at that time, you can't go through the whole code. This is where comments will help you in JavaScript. It will help you to remember what you did at that particular part of the program. So variables are named storage that a program can manipulate. As the name suggests, a variable is a value that can change according to conditions. Variables refers to those memory blocks inside the computer where we can store information. Let's suppose you want to store any value inside your computer. So variable will represent the location of that value. In simple terms, variables are cups with stuff inside them, and you can use that stuff later again and again according to the way you want to. Before the introduction of ES6 or ECMAScript we can say, which is the updated version of JavaScript, variables were declared using a single keyword only, which is where. We'll try to declare a few variables here. We'll see how where keyword works. So let's comment this thing first. So let's declare a few variables. Let's suppose where a equals to 15. We will declare where b and the value of b will be 6. We will declare where c and the value of c would be a plus b. So here we have defined 3 variables a, b and c. A is a variable with value 15 stored inside it, and so is b. The value of b is 6. But c is a variable that will contain the value of a plus b. Let's try to print this on browser. Document.write, and we will print the value of c. Save it, and here you can see the value of c is 21. That's the correct answer. So similarly, you can also print a and b as well. Let's print a and b as well here. What we will do, we'll copy this line, we'll paste it for a, and we'll update this here as well so it won't create any confusion. So here you can see the value of c is 21, the value of a is 15, and the value of b is 6. It shows the value of all the 3 variables we declared. But with the introduction of ES6 or ECMAScript in 2015, 2 more ways were introduced to declare a variable. These are let and const. We shall discuss these 2 terms in the later part of this session. Let me show you how to declare a variable. There are a few things you have to keep in mind while declaring a variable name. Here we have seen we use 3 variables a, b and c. That was an easy task to do, but giving a variable any name, like something other than a single alphabet. So you have to keep a few things in mind while naming them. Start them with a letter, underscore or a dollar sign. You can't use any sign except underscore or dollar. So if you are giving a variable name, you can't use any other sign except the underscore or the dollar sign. You can use these 2 signs only. You can't use any other sign. You can't use a number in the starting. Apart from that, let's suppose you want to give it a name as 9BE. You can't do that in JavaScript. JavaScript won't allow you this. If you try to save it, it will throw you an error, invalid or unexpected token. So you can't do this in JavaScript. There is no limit for the length of the variable name. But you can't use reserved keywords in a variable name. Like let's try to create a variable with name as class. Class is a reserved keyword in JavaScript. We'll save it and see here it throws an error, unexpected token class. But you can use a class with capital C. Let's save it and here it will work fine. Why it works? Because JavaScript variables are case sensitive. If we try to create a variable with same name, let's see, we try to create a variable with var girl and the another variable will be var girl with capital G this time. JavaScript will treat these two variables differently. These two are different variables for JavaScript, as JavaScript is case sensitive when it comes to variables. Let's declare a few more variables. Let's remove it. We'll declare a few more variables. Let's comment this part as well. We'll declare a few more variables. Suppose we declare a variable with keyword var and we'll name this variable as bike name. Var bike name and press enter. If we leave this variable without assigning it any value, the by default value will be undefined. Let's try to print the value of this variable. Right, we will try to print the value of bike name. Save it. Here you can see the value it shows is undefined. So the by default value of a variable, if you do not assign it any value, will be undefined. Let's try to give it a value. Let's suppose we try to give bike name. We use equals to operator to assign it a value. To assign, let's suppose we'll assign it Yamaha. Semicolon and press Ctrl plus S to save this, and here you can see the output as Yamaha. You can also assign a value to the variable during declaration, as we have done in the previous examples. Here we have assigned the variable's value at the time of declaration only. Let's move on to let and const. So we will discuss let and const, but first we will compare let with var. Let is also used to declare a variable just like var is used, but there is a limitation to use let. Let is not accessible outside the block in which it is declared. So we will use let here only. Let bike name equals, and we will change this value as well. We'll change it to hero, let's say. Save it, and here you can see the output as hero. But if we try to put this code inside a block, let's suppose we put this code inside this block, a pair of curly braces, and we will again try to access document.write. We'll try to access bike name again from here. From outside the block we try to access this. Save it, and here you can see bike name is not defined. It is an error in line 18. So what's happening here? Basically you can't access a let variable outside the scope. You can't access it from here, but it will work with var. If we try to replace let with var and save it, here you can see it says hero and hero, because first it will interpret this method and then it will interpret this as well in case of var. Due to its limited scope, let variables are used when there is limited use only. Like in for loop or in while loop, we will learn these loop in future. Let will not allow you to redeclare any variable. Let's understand this with an example. Here's the code as well. We have declared var bike name and we'll remove this. And first we'll try to do this with var. Let's suppose var bike name equals to TVS. Control plus S. It says hero and TVS. So the variable name, the bike name is same in both cases. Here and here as well. These are same, but with var keyword you can do that. Let will not allow you to do this. If we use let here in place of var, we'll write let here as well, and we will change the value as well. We will give it as Kawasaki and let's suppose Suzuki here. Save it. See, bike name has already been declared. So that's what let won't allow you to do. You can repeat the same let variable in different scope. It won't create any problem, but it will not allow you to redeclare any declared variable. So let's move on to const. We use const when there are values we don't want to change or that will never change basically. So the keyword const is little misleading, as it defines a constant reference to a value, not the constant value. We can't change the primitive value, but we can change the properties of constant objects. Let's write another piece of code for const keyword. So let's declare a variable const x is equal to 5 comma y is equal to 7. Let's say const So here what we have done, we declared a variable x and a variable y with value as 5 and 7. We declared this time with const keyword, and a variable z which is x plus y. We printed z on the browser and it shows the value as 12, which is x plus y. 7 plus 5 is equal to 12. Now what we will do, const will let you do this, but if you try to update the value of x, let's suppose we try to update the value of x as x equals to x plus 10. We'll print x this time. Document.write x. Let's save this. It will throw an error, assignment to a constant variable in line 24. So here you want to update the value of x. You can't do this with const keyword. You can do this with let and where as well, but you can't do this with const. Also, const won't allow you to redeclare any variable, just like let. So if you try to use const x again is equal to 10, save it. So here it says identifier x has already been declared. This thing you can do with const. The scope of const is the same as let. It can be used within the block where it is declared. Data types is an essential concept in every programming language. To work on any variable, you should know its type. It refers to the kind of data which is being stored inside a variable. The type of variable is holding basically. Every programming language has its own set of data types which is unique in its own way. We discussed earlier that JavaScript is a lightweight scripting language because we don't need to specify any data type in JavaScript. After all the variables in JavaScript are loosely packed, or we can say JavaScript is a dynamically typed scripting language. We shall discuss these properties later in this video. For now, let me tell you about different data types present in JavaScript. So JavaScript data types are divided into two categories: primitive data types and non-primitive data types. Primitive data types are stored in stack, whereas non-primitive data types, they are stored in heap. I don't want you to go deep in these two terms as if you are new to programming, so we'll leave it. Just keep one thing in mind, that primitive data types are base data types, whereas non-primitive data types are objects, or we can say they are derived. Primitive data types, they are further divided into 5 categories. They are divided as numbers, strings, boolean, undefined and null. Non-primitive data types or complex data types, we can say, on the other hand, they are divided into two parts: arrays and objects. We'll have separate videos on these topics. For now, let's discuss primitive data types. To understand primitive data types much better, let's declare a few variables here. Let's say we declare var x and give it the value as 16. We'll declare var y and we'll give it value hello world. We'll declare one more. Let's say var flag and the value will be true. Here we can talk about those properties of JavaScript which I mentioned earlier. JavaScript variables are loosely packed and JavaScript is a dynamically typed scripting language. These 2 points refer to the same thing. Here you can see we have defined 3 variables: x, we have defined variable x, we have defined variable y, and flag as well. The values for all 3 variables is different from one another. See, variable x is holding a value that is 16, variable y is holding a value hello world, which is a string. So 16 is a number, hello world is a string, and variable flag is holding a value that refers to a boolean value. In place of true, we can also write false here. So what's happening here? Here you can see there is no data type. If you are coming from a C++ background or a Java background, this will be a little bit weird for you guys, because in C++ and Java, we used to do it like we'll define an integer. Let me show you. So how we will define an integer in C++ or Java? What we'll say, we'll use int x equals to 5 or something like that. We already had a data type. For string as well, we have char in C++, but here in JavaScript, we have no data type. We are only using the where keyword. That's what we call as loosely typed. This line means that you don't have to define the data type of the variable. What happens in JavaScript is whatever the type of value you will pass to the variable, the data type will change accordingly. So you don't need to worry about if you are passing a number or if you are passing a string. Just relax. Just when you pass the value to the variable, it will be determined automatically. So these are the three basic primitive data types present in JavaScript, which are number, boolean value and string. So let's move on to the next one, which is undefined. We'll define a variable p and we'll leave it as it is. So this variable p has an undefined data type. It means that any variable which is already declared but has no value inside it, it has an undefined data type. I'll tell you a basic operator, the type of operator. We'll go through the operators in later videos, but just try to understand the basic need and use it with me. For now, this operator will help you know the type of value a variable is holding. See, let's use it here. We have declared a variable p. We'll check the type of p. So to use this operator, you have to use it with document.write now. So we'll do document.write and we'll use two brackets, and inside it we'll write type of, and whatever, like if you want to know the type of variable x, let's suppose we'll write here x semicolon, save it, and you can see here it says number. This means that this variable has a value which is a number. Similarly, we will check for all the variables present here. We'll check for every variable. We'll check for y, we'll check for flag, and we'll check for p as well. Let's copy this and paste it 3 times, and let's change the value here from x to y in this line, and from x to flag here, and here we'll change it to p. So we have done it. We'll save it and see. Here it says number first. Variable y, it says it's a string, because you know hello world is a string. It's a sequence of character. For variable flag, it says boolean, so it's defined as true or false. And for variable p, it's written here undefined. With this, we are left with only one primitive data type, the null data type. There's a difference between a null value and an undefined value. Undefined means lack of value, whereas null means the absence of any value. Suppose you are using null as the value for any variable, the type of operator will return this variable as an object. But if you are not giving any value to this variable, you are leaving it after declaration, the type of operator will return undefined. Here's an example for this. See, we'll declare one more variable here. We'll declare var num. Let's name this variable num, and we will give it the value as null. We'll use document.write type of, and we will check with the help of type of operator that what type of value the variable num is holding. So let's give here num. We are good to go. Press Ctrl plus S and see. Here it says it's an object. So a null value will always be shown as an object. Type conversion, as the name suggests, conversion of value from one to another. In the previous video, we declared a few variables. We declared numbers, strings and boolean as well. In JavaScript, you can change the data type of any variable from one to another. You can change a number to a string or a string to a number. Let's see an example of type conversion. Let's declare a variable here. Let's suppose we are using a variable. Let's say var num equals to, and the value will be 34, and we'll print it first. And we'll use type of operator to see the data type of this variable. Save it and see. Here it shows 34 and a number. I've already told you about the use of console.log. In this topic, we'll use console.log just for a change. You can use document.write as well. There's no problem with any method you are using. Let's move ahead and we'll declare a few more variables. We'll declare a string and a boolean as well. Let's suppose var str equals to hello, and we'll print it as well. Let's copy it from here and paste it here. and we'll declare one more variable. Let's say where bool equals to true. Let's print these three variables first. See, the output is pretty simple. We can see the value and data types as well. See, 34 is a number, hello is a string, and true is a boolean value. So let's convert this number to a string first. This number 34, this is a number here, right? And we'll convert this number to a string. So how to do it? That's pretty simple. All you have to do is write a word here. Let's write here. Write string with a capital S and put 34 inside a bracket. So here we are done with it. Save it and see. Here you can see 34, which was a number first, and now it's changed to a string. That's how you can change the data type of any variable. Let's try to change a boolean value to a string now. Many of you guys gets confused with boolean. So boolean is nothing. If something is true, then set it to true, and if something is not true, like if it's false, then set it to false. See, if we talk about a real life example, say if you know how to drive, create a variable drive and set it to true. And if you don't know how to drive, set the variable to false. That's pretty simple. That's what boolean is. Let's change a boolean variable to a string. We have to follow the same steps as we did for numbers. What we did, we'll write here string and put true inside brackets. We are done with it. Save it and check the output. Here you can see the type changed from boolean to string. Like string function, we can also change a string value to a number. So how to do it? Let's take a variable. Let's say where str1 we will take. Let's say we are giving it a numeric value. Let's say 8968. And what we'll do, we'll write here console log and we'll print it basically str1, and we'll write here as well. Save it, and here you can see 8968 is a string. So how to change this string to a number? That's also a simple task. All you have to do is write here number with capital N and put this value inside brackets. Save it and see, here you can see 8968 changed to a number. It was a string earlier and now it's a number. So if it's a number now, let's update this number and we will see if we are adding something to 8968, the value will change or not. Let's update str1. What we'll do, we'll write str1 equals to str1 plus, let's add a number, say 2. So the output should be 8970 and the type of operator will give the value as number. Let's see what's the output now. Save it and see. Here you can see the output changed to 8970. But if you add an alphabet or a character in the value, then the output will be different. Here we will copy this whole code and we'll paste it here. We'll change the value of str1 equals to str2 and we'll use an alphabet along with this number. Let's suppose it's 8968A. So A is an alphabet, and what we'll do, we'll comment this line and we'll go here and change the value str1. Here we are done with it. Save it. Here you can see it says NaN. It means that it's not a number. It won't treat this string as a number because it consists of both numeric value as well as character. Now let's try to convert a boolean value to a number. In the case of a boolean variable, the scenario is a bit different. Let's try this. Let's declare a variable. Let's say we are using var bool2 and the value will be true. What we'll do, we'll print the value here. Here you can see true, and the data type of true is boolean. So let's try to change this boolean value to a number. That's pretty simple task. Write here number and put true inside brackets. Save it, and here you can see it says 1. In case of boolean variable, the value of true is 1 and the value of false is 0. Remember this guys, keep this thing in mind. If you are changing a boolean variable to a number, then the value of true will be changed to 1 and the value of false will be changed to 0. Now let's have a look at parseInt and parseFloat as well. After which I'll tell you one more interesting function. Let's move on to parseInt first. Here I'll declare a variable. Let's suppose I'm declaring a variable, let's say var, and we'll name this variable as number. The value will be a string. Let's suppose it's 56. We'll print it console.log. Here you can see that the output is showing 56 is a string. So the data type here is string because I have used here single inverted comma. So it will take 56 as a string. Now let's suppose I want to parse this as an integer, or say I want to change it to a number. I can use parseInt as well. Apart from number, if you want to use number, that's fine. But apart from number, if you want to use parseInt, you can use it. Let's see what happens if you use parseInt. Use parseInt and put 56 inside a bracket. Save it and see, here it changed a string to a number. 56 was a string earlier, right? And now it's a number. Just like parseInt, we have parseFloat as well. ParseFloat will do the same thing, but what if you are using a decimal number here? Let's see if you are using 56.343. Save it. What parseInt will do? It will give you, let's change 56 first. Let's suppose we are using 65 now. Save it and see. ParseInt will give you the value as 65 only. It won't show you the value, the decimal value. But if you are using here number or parseFloat, it will give you the whole numeric value. Let's see what happens if you use number here. Number and save it. Here you can see the value is 65.343. Like number, if you are using here parseFloat, let's use parseFloat here. And we'll change the value here as well. Let's suppose it's 72.543. Save it and see, here it will give you the whole numeric value of the variable. I hope this is clear for you guys. Now there is one more function you can use in numbers, which is .toFixed. So this function has by default 0 value. Let's suppose I'm using here. We have to use it here only. Let's see what happens if I'm using number.toFixed. So inside bracket we are giving it a value. By default the value is 0. Let's suppose we are giving it the value as 2. Now save it and what will happen? It will give you the value as 72.54. Similarly, if you are using here some other number, let's suppose 7. You can see we have only 3 digits here. After the decimal we have 3 digits only. That is 5, 4 and 3. What happens if we run this program now? Let's save it and see. Here it says 5430000. So it will show you the value up to 7 decimal points. It doesn't matter if there are available numbers after decimal point, but it will show you the value. Instead of 7, you can also give here 30. Let's save it and see, it says 6366 and so on. Hope this is clear for you guys. By now you must have a clear understanding of data types and we know enough about variables in JavaScript. So without any further delay, let's go through operators in JavaScript. In any programming language, an operator is a symbol that makes the computer understand that it needs to do some specific task. Like if we want to perform an addition between two numbers, let's say we want to perform addition between 4 and 5. So guys, if you see the plus sign here, this is known as the operator, and the two terms which are 4 and 5, these two numbers, these are known as the operands. We have different operators for different purposes. Like we have plus for addition, we have minus for subtraction, we have star or asterisk we can say for multiplication, and many more other operators as well. So there are many more operators present in almost every programming language which is present out there. Like operators are present in Java, they are present in C++, in C. Almost every programming language out there has the concept of operators. It's essential for you to know how and where to use any operator despite of the language you are working on. One needs to understand which operators are available, right? So in this particular video, I'll take you through the basic types of operator present in JavaScript. I'll let you know the types and we'll learn about how to use them, and of course I'll take you through the different categories of operators present in JavaScript. So in JavaScript there are basically 8 categories into which operators are divided, which are: we have arithmetic operators, we have assignment, we have string, we have conditional, we have logical, bitwise, comparison, and type of operator. We'll discuss the first 3 types in this video, that is, we'll discuss the arithmetic operators, we'll discuss the assignment and the string operators. Rest we'll talk about in the following video. First up here is the arithmetic operator. Hope you all are aware of the term arithmetic, right? So, arithmetic operators perform mathematical calculations, like it performs addition, subtraction, multiplication and division as well. So here are the few operators you can see on your screen: the plus operator, minus, asterisk, division, we have modulus, we have increment, we have decrement. So these are the basic arithmetic operator. We'll see each of these operator with an example. So let's move on to the programming part first. So guys, I want to mention one more thing here. I want all of you to make a separate file for each topic we'll be covering from now on. Like for operators, you'll create a separate file. We'll create a separate one for control statements and other topics we'll cover in future from today. So I want you to create a separate file because, you know, in future if you want to access these topics, it will be easy for you to access those files. Instead, if you are using a single file for all the topics, it will be quite confusing. So let's start with the arithmetic operators first. Let's take 2 variables. We are in the JavaScript file. Let's take 2 variables. Let's say var x equals to 6, and we'll take another variable. Let's say var y equals to 4. Now we'll perform some arithmetic operations on these 2 variables. We have already seen the arithmetic operators present, like we have plus, minus, we have increment, decrement, we have multiplication, division. So we'll go through all of these, right? So let's start with it. Here we are done with our basic 3 operators, which is addition, subtraction and multiplication. I have commented the division because I have something to tell you about the division. So let's check the output here first. Let's save it and see. The output is addition 10, subtraction 2 and multiplication 24. For addition it added the 2 numbers, it's 6 plus 4. Similarly for subtraction and multiplication it is 6 minus 4 and it's 6 multiplied by 4. For division, I have left division because I hope you guys know the difference between division and the modulus operator. Let's try to use the modulus operator along with the division. So what we'll do, we'll comment these 3 and let's remove it from here, and what we'll do, we'll paste this here and we'll use the modulus here. So now let's check the output, what it says for division and modulus. See, we have divided 6 by 4. Division, it says it's 1.5. 6 divided by 4, that is 1.5. It will show the quotient here. For modulus, it's saying 2 because in modulus it gives you the remainder, and in division it gives you the quotient as the answer. So keep this thing in mind, guys. Keep this in mind always. Take a note of it. So we are done with division and modulus. Next up we have the increment and the decrement operators. Let me show them to you real quick. So what we'll do, we'll declare another variable. Let's say where z equals to 5, and we'll use the increment operator here. We'll use again document.write, and here we'll, let's say we write increment. How to use increment operator? For increment operator you have to use plus whatever variable you have used. So we'll use plus z, and similarly we'll copy this, paste it here, and here we'll use minus for decrement, and change here as well. So let's see what happens. Let me give some space in between them so that you won't get confused. Let's save it and check the output here. Increment is, it says 6, and decrement it says 5. So you can see here the functioning of decrement and increment operator. The increment operator will increase the value of z by 1 and the decrement operator will do the opposite of this. It will decrease the value by 1. So we are done with the arithmetic operators. Next up we have the assignment operators. Assignment operators are used to assign values to different JavaScript variables. Let's see the types first and then we'll see how to use them. So we have these assignment operators here. We have equals to, plus equals to, minus equals to, and we have multiplied equals to, we have divide equals to, modulus equals to, and a few more. So let's see each of them with example. Maybe not each of them, but we'll try to cover almost every single operator out there which is present in your screen. So let's move on and see. Let's move on to the programming part. So here we are, guys. Let's declare a few variables. Let's say we are declaring a variable a and we are giving it the value as 10, suppose. And we'll declare another one, let's say var b, and give it the value 5. So for assignment operators, what assignment operator means? We have used here the equal to sign, right? We have used a equals to 10. This means whatever value present on the right side of the operator, like here it is 10, it will be assigned to the variable a. I hope you guys are getting this. Keep this in mind. So we have the value 10 and we are assigning this value to the variable a. It says, let's try to check the output of a. Let's try to print a on the screen. Okay, document. See, here you can see that the value of a, it says 10, and similarly the value of b is 5. So let's do one more thing. We'll assign the value of a to b. How to do this? Let's change the value here only. Let's suppose we are using the value of var a as 13. Okay, and the value of var b will be providing as, let's say, a. So now let's try to print the value of b. Here we will change, we'll print the value of b only. Let's save it and see the output. See, it says the value of b is 13 because we have assigned b the value present at variable a, which is 13. That's why it is showing the value of b as 13. This is what assignment operator is. Let's try other assignment operators as well. Let's take another variable. So let's say var a1 equals to, let's say, 51. So the next operator we will be using is, let's update the value of a1 first. So how to do this? Let's say a1 equals to, no, it's a1 plus equals to 9. And we'll print the value. Let's check the output now. See, it says the value of a1 is 60. Here we have given that a1 plus equals to 9. See, a1 plus equals to 9 is the same as, if you don't want to write here a1 plus equals to 9, you can also write it as a1 equals to a1 plus 9. Both of these lines are same. Both these statements means the same. They are performing the same task. So a1 equals to a1 plus 9 is same as a1 plus equals to 9. That's what I want you to understand with assignment operators. Similarly, if you want to perform a1 minus equals to, you can do it as well. So let's say a1 minus is equal to 5. And we'll copy this line from here, paste it here again and save it now. Let's see the output here. What it says. Some of you guys may get confused that here it shows the value of 69 of a1. So in the first statement, when we tried to print a1 here, the initial value was 51. Then this statement was performed and the value was updated to 60. Then after that, one more statement. This statement is also performed and the value updated to 69. It's 51 plus 9 plus 9. And the value we have here is 69. Now what happens if we are using the minus equals to operator? What it will do? It will decrease the value of a1 by 5. It means that a1 equals to a1 minus 5. The value of a1 is 69 and it will subtract 5 from 69. So here it says the value of a1 is 64. Hope you guys are getting this. So we have so many operators, we have so many of them. Like, let's try a few more. So we have multiply equals to, we have division equals to, we have modulus equals to. So I'll write these and then we'll see the output. So we are done with it. Let's check the output here for A3, A4 and A5. You can see for A3 we have used multiply equals to, for A4 we have used divide equals to, and for A5 we have used modulus equals to. Let's check the output here. Save it and see. It says the value of A3 50. Here we have taken A3 as 5, it's 10 into 5 because A3 equals to A3 into 5. So it's 10 into 5, it shows the value as 50. Similarly, here it says the value of A4 is 3.75 because we have used here 4. So instead of 4, let's try to use 3 and save it. See, here you can see it divides it and gives you the quotient, and the value of A4 divided by 3 is 5. So similarly, for A5, it shows the value of A5 is 6 because we have used the modulus operator here, and 20 divided by 7, we have 6 as remainder. So I hope you guys are pretty clear with assignment operators now. Next up, we have string operators. The plus operator, which we used as the arithmetic operators earlier, right? It also operates as a string operator. So we can use it to concatenate two strings. That means we can add two strings as well. In JavaScript, it is possible with the help of string operator. Similarly, we have plus equals to operator for strings as well. Like we have plus equal to for assignment, it has the same functioning for string as well. Let's take the example for these two operators. Let's move on to the programming part. So here you can see we have two variables, where str1 and where str2. The value of where str1 is hello and the value of where str2 is world. So what we'll do, we will add str1 and str2. So let's check the output here, save it and see. Here you can see the output as hello world. But there is no space between hello and world. Keep this point in mind, guys. So if you are adding two strings just like this, there will be no space between the two strings. So if you want to add any space between these two, what you have to do, you have to mention it here separately. And this is the syntax if you want to add space between your strings. So now let's save it now and see. Here you can see there is a space between hello and world. So this is the use of plus operator in strings. So the next one we have plus equals to. Let's take another string. Let's take it as where str3 and we'll give it the value as welcome. So what we'll do, we'll use the plus equal to operator here. Str3 plus equals to, let's say, to SimpliCode. And what we'll do, we'll print the value of str3 here. So save it now. So here you can see the value of str3. If we remove this line, let's see what happens now. And we'll give it a space here. Save it now. See, here you can see it says hello world. For the first str1 plus str2, it says hello world. For str3, it says welcome to SimpliCode. See, here the space is already given, so it will show this in the output. But between welcome and to, if you want to add space, you have to do the same what you have done for str1 and str2. So let's do it here as well. Plus sign, yes. Save it now and see, here you can see it says welcome to SimpliCode with proper space. Now we will cover the rest of the operators. Now we are left with 5 more. These are the first 3 operators. Now we are left with conditional operators, logical operators, we have bitwise operator, and we have comparison, and finally we have the type of operator. So these are the 5 operators we are going to cover today. Before we start with the operators, let us first discuss associativity. Talking about associativity, it refers to the direction in which the entire expression is evaluated. For example, if you have any expression, let's say you have a plus b. So the direction in which this expression will be evaluated, either it will be from left to right or from right to left. So this is known as associativity. Let's understand it with the help of an example. So here you can see I have taken three variables. I have taken variable A and I have assigned it value as 12. I have taken variable B and the value assigned to B is 8. And finally I have a variable result which stores the value of A plus B. Lastly, what I'm doing is I'm printing out the result variable inside the h1 tag. Here you can see I have used the h1 tags and I have used the plus operator to concatenate the strings, right? I have concatenated these two strings along with the result, along with the answer of result. So the plus operator here is doing two different tasks, right? Here you can see it is performing the addition of two numbers, right? And here you can see it is used to concatenate two strings. So now let's talk about associativity, because I guess you guys are clear with string operator till now. We have discussed them in the previous video, right? So let's talk about associativity now. So certain operators have right to left associativity and certain operators have left to right associativity. So when I say right to left associativity, in this case the value present at the right side of the operator. See, if you are using any operator, for example here we have used the assignment operator, right? We have discussed the assignment operator earlier. So here you can see the value present at the right hand side of the operator will be assigned to the variable which is present at the left hand side of the operator. So it's going this way, like first the computer will check for the value present at the right. It's going from right towards the left. This is what we are known as right to left associativity, and assignment operators like equals to, this have right to left associativity. Let's add here one more variable. Let's say we are adding a variable C, and we are giving it the value as 5. And what we'll do, we'll update result as well. Let me first show you the output of this particular program. See, the output will be value of result is 20 and hi there. Hi there is concatenated with the string value of result is, and 20 is the actual answer. The 20 is the value of result. So let's add one more variable here. Let's say we are adding a variable C and the value of C will be 5. What we'll do now, we will update result as well. Here you can see I have done A plus B plus C. So save it, and here you can see the value updated to 25. The value of result is updated, right? So the plus operator has associativity from left to right. Till now we have talked about right to left as for assignment operators, but for plus operators the associativity is from left to right. It means it will first perform A plus B, and then the value of C will be added to that of A plus B. First it will perform 12 plus 8, and then finally it will add 5 to that value. So it will be 20 plus 5, and that's why the output here is 25. We know that JavaScript is a loosely typed programming language, right? Which means that we don't have to specify data types every time. Like if we are using any data type, we don't need to specify it every time. Like let's do one thing, let's add a string here. So what we'll do, we'll add a string. Let's suppose I'm adding hello. So practically the answer would be hello plus 25 or hello 25. It should be the answer. But let's check the output now. Save it. And here you can see the output is hello 1285. What happened here is the associativity of the plus operator is from left to right. We know this. So it will start from the left and it will see that, okay, the first thing to add is a string. So it will assume that everything ahead of this will be a string. That's why we have the output as hello 12, 8 and 5. So 12, 8 and 5 all are acting as string here. Let me clear this one for you with a little bit of modification. Now what we'll do, we'll remove this string from here and we'll add it somewhere else. Let's say we are adding it here. So let's add one more variable to make it more clear. Let's say we are using variable D and the value will be 10. And what we'll do, we'll perform A plus B before the string and then we'll perform C plus D. Right? So here you can see when you save it, it says 20 hello 510. So when it reached out the first variable, it finds out that the first variable is a number. So it added the first two numbers, right? It added 12 and 8. The answer is 20. Then it came across this string hello, and then finally it assumed that everything ahead of this will be a string. So that's the output. 20 is the addition of a plus b, and then the string hello, and finally we have the value of c and d as string. So we have the value 5 and 10, not 15, right? I hope you guys get this. So let's move on to conditional operators. The conditional operators assign a value to a variable based on a certain condition. Like it contains a condition, and you know, for every condition, like there exists only two possibilities. Either it can be true or it can be false. There is nothing else you can do with a conditional operator. So it works the same as if-else statements, which we'll cover in further videos. The only difference between if-else and conditional operators that it takes less time, or we can say its usage is pretty easy. So here is the syntax for conditional operators. So it seems pretty straightforward, right? So here you can see we have a variable name, we have a condition. Depending upon the condition, we have two values. Here's the example as well. See, you can see we have a variable voter. Next up we have a condition. If age is less than 18, so it will check for the condition that if the value of age is actually less than 18, let's suppose the value of age is 15. So it will check if 15 is less than 18, it's true. Then it will print too young. Or if the value of age is greater than 18, then it will print false, or you can say it will print old enough here. So let's move on to the programming part. So here you can see I have taken a variable x and the value assigned to x is 30. What we'll do, in variable y, I have given it a condition. So it will check for x, which is 30, if 30 is greater than or equals to 50. So if it's true, if 30 is actually greater than 50, then it will print true, else it will print false. So we'll check the output once. Let's save it and see. Here you can see the output as false. So if we update the value of x here, let's suppose we are updating the value of x, let's suppose it's 60. Save it now and see the output has changed to true because 60 is greater than 50, right? Also, if you want to write a message here only, you can do it. Write it here as, so we'll copy it from here, we'll copy document.write and we'll paste it here. Let's remove this document.write, and what we'll do, we'll use this bracket here. And if any message you want to write, like you want to write value of, so, and now what we'll do, we'll save it. See, it says value of true. So, or you can write any other message here as well. You can write value of x is greater than, or you can write whatever. So if you want to update it like value is, and here we will update true with greater, and here we will use smaller. Save it now. See, here it says value is greater, value of x is greater than y. So that's all for conditional operators. Also one more thing, conditional operators has three different parts, right? And that's why it is also known as ternary operator. Three different parts, as in it has a condition, like here it has a condition and it has two values, right? It has true or false. So that's why it is also known as ternary operator. Next up, we have the logical operators. So logical operators are used to determine the logic between two variables or values, we can say. We use logical operators to check whether multiple conditions are true or false. Here on your screen you can see the three different types of logical operators present in JavaScript along with their syntax and example. So the AND or NOT are the three operators present in JavaScript. The AND operator, here you can see it is holding two values, right? It has x less than 10 and y greater than 1. So the AND operator will return true only if both the conditions are true. Like x has to be less than 10 and y has to be greater than 1. So here you can see we have taken x equals to 7 and y equals to 4. So both the conditions are satisfying here. So that's why the output of the AND operator will be true. For OR operator, the case is a bit different. So if any one of these two conditions, like we have two conditions, if any one of these two is true, then the output will be true. And if both are false, then only the output will be false. The NOT operator, on the other hand, will check if x is equals to y. If the value x is holding is equals to that of y, if the value is not equal, then it will return true. I hope you are getting this. That's a little bit confusing, but if the value x and y holding, if they are not equal, then it will return true. If they are equal, then it will return false, right? We'll understand the programming concept of logical operators in further videos when we learn about control statements. We primarily use logical operators with the if statement, through which we'll come across in the following video. In the next video, we will go through the control statements. So we'll understand the programming part of logical operator there only. Next up, we have the comparison operators. So comparison operators are similar to logical operators in some way. They are also used to check for true and false. As the name suggests, we use comparison operator to compare two values, or we can say to compare two variables using different operators. So here you can see on your screen, these are the different types of comparison operators present in JavaScript. We have equals to, we have not equals to, we have equal value and data type, we have greater than, less than, and we have a few more. So I hope you guys must remember from the previous video that a single equals to operator is an assignment operator. So if we are using a single equals to, then it will be considered as an assignment operator. For comparison, we have to use double equal to. Keep this thing in mind. Whenever you are using any operator in JavaScript, or especially the equals to operator. So if you want to compare two values, you have to use double equals to, because single equals to is used to assign values. This is an assignment operator. So let's move on to the programming part now. So guys, here you can see I have taken a variable x and the value assigned to x is 10. This code seems a little bit longer to you, but that's a simple piece of code. Like I've used almost every comparison operator we came across in the previous slide. I've used each one of them, and I've used the document.write after every comparison operator to put some spaces in between so that you guys don't confuse between them. So let's check the output now. See, as you can see, I have used the double equals to, the triple equals to, I have used x not equals to it. So let's check the output, save it and see. Here it says false, false, true, 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 false, true, false. So for x equals to 8, it compared the value 10 with 8, and 10 and 8 are not equals to. So the output will be false. As similar for 10, and we have used the triple equals to operator, which means equal value and data type. So both 10 and 8 have equal data type. They both have the same data type, that is number, but the values are different. So it will print false. For x not equals to 8, it says 10 is not equals to 8. Yeah, 10 is not equals to 8 actually. So it will print true. Similarly for x not equals to 8, it will check that both the values are not equal, but the data types are equal, right? So it will print true for this as well. For x greater than 8, yeah, 10 is greater than 8. So it will print true. Similarly it will check for x smaller than 8, and it will check for x greater than equals to 8, and also for x less than equals to 8. So by now you have understood how comparison operators work. So comparison operators are the easiest to use in programming. And that's all for comparison operators. Let's move on to the next one we have. The next type of operator we have is the type of operator. You guys have an idea about the type of operators, right? As we have discussed it earlier. In case you haven't watched the previous videos, let me give you a brief introduction about this type of operator. So the type of operator is used to provide you with the type of whatever value you put to the right of it. Like if you are using any data type and you want to know about the data type of a particular variable, let's say, so you can use the type of operator. It will tell you the actual data type of any variable. So in JavaScript, as we have discussed earlier in the video where we have particularly discussed about the data types, so there are 5 different types of primitive data types, right? We have the numbers, we have strings, we have boolean, we have null and undefined. So let's try to use type of operator. So here you can see I have used 4 different variables, which are I have used variable x, variable y, and variable flag and variable p. So the values are different. The x is holding 17, y is holding hey there, and flag has the value as false. And I have defined p, but I have not assigned it any value till now. So what I'll do, I have used the type of operator to find out the type of every variable. Like here I have used it for x, for y, for flag and for p. Let's check the output now. Save it and see. It says number, string, boolean and undefined. See, here we have given x the value as 17. So 17 is a number, then it says it is a number. For hey there it says it is a string. For false it says it is a boolean value. Like in boolean value we have only 2 values, like false and true. So for variable p it says undefined. You know, there is a difference between undefined and null data types. Undefined means lack of value, whereas null means there is absence of value, that there is no value at all. So suppose you are using null as the value for any variable, right? The type of operator will return object. But if you are not giving any value to any variable, like you are using the variable as it is, like here we have not given it any value. So if you are doing this, the type of operator will return undefined. So let's take an example of null as well. Let's declare another variable, let's say var abc, and we'll give it the value as null. So and finally what we'll do, we'll use type of operator. Save it and see. Here it says the type of variable abc is an object. So remember this thing, guys. And now we are done with almost 7 operators we had, and we are left with 1 operator only. So let's move on to our last operator, which is the bitwise operator. This operator doesn't have that much of practical usage in the real world. They are not definitely useless, but this is something like we are not going to use on a daily basis. So in computers, if you know, the numbers are stored in binary format. Bitwise operators work on 32-bit numbers. And we have decimal numbers, like we understand decimal numbers. Computer works on binary numbers, right? So when bitwise operators are used, any operand present in the operation is first converted to a binary number and then converted back to a JavaScript number. So here you can see on your screen, we have 4 different bitwise operators. We have the AND operator, we have OR, we have NOT, and we have XOR, or we can say exclusive OR. The result and the answers are also here. It's pretty simple. See, we have used the AND operator before as well while we were in logical operators, but the syntax was different, and here you can see we have a single ampersand sign to use bitwise AND operator. So here you can see how the decimal number first changes to a binary number. Suppose we have x as 5. Here you can see x is first changed to a binary number. This is the binary equivalent of 5, and 1 is also changed to a binary number, and finally the result, whatever result we get, it is changed to a decimal number. So that's how bitwise operators work. Let's take an example of bitwise operators. So here you can see I have taken 2 variables. I have taken variable x, and the value of variable x is 5, and another variable is y, and the value of y is 1. And then I have used all the 4 bitwise operators, like I have used x and y, I have used x or y, I have used not x, and I have used the XOR operator between x and y. So let's check the output now. Here you can see, if we talk about the output, see here it says 1, 5, minus 6 and 4. So for x and y, see the value of x is 0, 1, 0, 1, and for AND operators it will return 1 if both the values are 1. If any one of the two values are 0, then it will return 0. So what it will return here, it will return 0 for 0, 0. For 1, 0 it will also return 0. Similarly for 0, 0 it will also return 0, and for 1, 1 it will return 1, which is the binary equivalent of 1. So the answer here is 1. For x or y, it will return 1 if any one of the two values are 1. See, if both are 0, it will return 0. If any one of the two values is 1, it will return 1. It will return 0 again, and finally it has two ones, so it will return 1. And 0, 1, 0, 1 is the binary equivalent of 5. That's why the output here is 5. For NOT operator, it works a little bit different. It gives you the output which is same as minus x minus 1. So minus x minus 1 will be, see, minus x minus 1 will be minus 5 minus 1, which is minus 6. So this is a bit different here. The NOT operator here is a bit different. For XOR operator, or we can say exclusive OR, it will return 4. Why it will return 4? It will return 1 when any one of the two values is 1. If both are 1, then also it will return false. It will return 1 only in one condition. If any one of the two values is 1, then only it will return 1. That's why the output here will be 0, 1, 0, 0. That's why it's written as 4, which is the binary equivalent of 0, 1, 0, 0. The term control statement is pretty self-explanatory and straightforward, right? We came across JavaScript statements in previous videos. JavaScript statements are the instructions that tells the browser to perform specific actions. Control statements are also instructions, and they govern the flow of control in a program. So let's take a look at control statements with the help of an example. Let's suppose we have a piece of code that has n number of statements. Here, let's say we have this code, and so the conventional workflow will be, it will first execute the first statement, then second, then third, and so on till statement n, right? So this is the basic flow, right? From statement 1 till statement n, and it will execute each statement in between. However, in real world, the scenario is different. Like, we don't write the code in same manner every time. For example, let's suppose you are in line 5 and you want to print this line 10 times. So what should you do? You can write this line 10 times, or you can copy paste it, right? Okay, let's forget about 10 times. Let's suppose you have to use this code, or we can say, let's suppose you have to print this statement 100 times. Doing this, like copy pasting it for 100 times or writing this statement for 100 times, that's useless and unnecessary, right? So that's where control statements comes into picture. We'll discuss them in a while. Let's assume another situation. This time you want to make a choice based on certain conditions. You can use conditional operators, but then it has limitations, right? To tackle this problem, we have control statements in JavaScript. So these are the very basic reasons why we need control statements for performing a certain activity. Like if we want to perform a certain activity n number of times, or if you want to make a certain decision making kind of scenarios in your program, that's where we need control statements in JavaScript. In JavaScript, we have two different types of control statements depending upon what action we are performing. So we have the conditional control statements and we have the iterative, or we can say looping control statements. Talking about conditional statements, as the name suggests, we use conditional statements when we have to make decisions based on conditions. When we have two choices, or when we can say when we have two different conditions and we want to make choices accordingly. So that's where we use conditional statements. We have two different types of conditional statements, the if-else statements and the switch case. Talking about the iterative statements, as the name suggests, if you want to perform any action more than once, or maybe n number of times, instead of writing them again and again, we use loops. So loops are basically statements. We use loops to perform any activity n number of times with specific conditions. So in JavaScript, we have 4 different type of loops. We have for loop, while loop, do while loop, and foreign loop. So the for loop, while loop, and do while loop, you might have heard about them earlier because they are also present in other programming languages. But this foreign loop, this is a new type of loop present in JavaScript. We use foreign loop with objects. We'll go through objects in upcoming videos, and of course we'll be looking at each of these control statements in detail. We'll have a particular video for each of these topics. Now let me introduce to you the break and the continue statement. They are not the types of control statements, but they do assist in other control statements. The break is used to exit a switch statement or loop. Like when used in a loop, it breaks the loop and continues executing the code after it. And on the other hand, the continue statement breaks a single iteration. When used in a loop, when we use continue statement in a loop, it breaks a single iteration, and it breaks the iteration only if the specified condition occurs, and then it will continue with the next iteration in the loop. So the if-else conditional statement is used whenever we work with condition. It can be either a single condition or maybe more than one condition or multiple conditions we can work with. So let's try to write a basic program with a single condition. So then we'll move on to multiple conditions using the else if statement. So we'll create a new file today. So I hope you guys know the importance of creating a separate file for every topic. You know, it will be easy for you to work to find out that separate file later if you want to revise that topic. So here is the program where we have taken a variable x and the value of x is 10. So what we are doing in this program is we are checking if the value the variable x is holding, that is the value 10, and if the value is less than 10 or if the value is greater than 10. So we have only two conditions. Either the value can be less than 10 or the value can be greater than 10 or equals to 10 as well. So here in this program, what we'll do, we'll update this value as 8. So the variable x is holding the value 8. So to check the output, let's save it, and here you can see it says the value of x is less than 10. Of course the value 8 is always less than 10, right? So for 8, that's fine, it will say the value is less than 10. And similarly, if we do the same for, let's say, 11, save it now and see, it says the value of x is greater than 10. So that's quite simple, right? But what if we are giving the value as 10? We know 10 is equals to 10. So save it now and see, here you can see it says the value of x is greater than 10. This is happening because what we did, as we told the interpreter to check the value if the value of x is less than 10. We didn't mention that what to do if the value is equals to 10. So it will check for only x is less than 10, not for equals to 10 or greater than 10. So here what it is doing, it is checking if the value is less than 10. So that it says, okay, let's print this statement if the value is less than 10. Or if the value is not less than 10, or if the value is equals to or greater than 10, it will print the value of x is greater than 10. To avoid this type of misunderstanding, we use an else if statement. So the concept of else if statement is the same as if statement. What we are doing, we are using multiple conditions, right? We are giving it more than one condition. So how to use else if? It's quite easy, and the syntax is also similar to the if statement. The only difference is that it contains an else before if. So it's an else if. So what we are doing is we are giving it a condition that else if x equals to 10. So now what it will do, it will check for two conditions, that if the value x is holding is less than 10 or equals to 10. And what we'll do, we'll update it as. So let's check the output now. Save and see, here it says the value of x is equals to 10, right? So I hope you guys are getting this. The execution flow for this program will be like, it will check for the first condition if x is less than 10, If yes, it will print the value of x is less than 10. If no, it will move on to the following condition. Like under the else if statement, it finds a condition that if x is equals to 10, it will check for it. If yes, if x is equals to 10, then it will print the value of x is equals to 10. Or if not, then otherwise it will move to else statement and print the value of x is greater than 10. We don't need to specify any particular condition for this, because we have already specified the two conditions, that if x is less than 10 or if x is equals to 10. Now we'll take a look at some basic programs. Other than this one, we'll take a look at a few more basic programs. So here's the another program. What we are doing here is we are taking a variable x and the value of x is 5. So what we are doing is we are checking if the number is an even number or an odd number. The thing you have to keep in mind is the logic to find whether a number is even or an odd number. So to check whether a number is even, what we do, we'll divide that number with 2, right? What basically we want is we want the remainder as 0 when we use the modulus operator. So what we'll do, here we have written x mod 2 equals to 0. So if the remainder is 0, then the number will be an even number because it is divisible by 2. Else it will be an odd number. So that's quite simple, right? Let's save it and check the output. For 5 it says odd number. Yeah, 5 is of course an odd number, right? So that's for even and odd number. So here we are with another program. Here it says we have a variable y and the value of y is, let's say, 8. And what we are doing here is we are checking if a number is positive or negative or 0. So we have 3 different conditions. Either number can be positive or it can be a negative number. Any number greater than 0 is a positive number, right? And any number less than 0 is a negative number. And the third one is a number 0. It's neither positive nor negative. So let's check for the number 8, save it and see. Here you can see it is a positive number. Let's see for -2. Save it now. It says a negative number. For 0 it will say 0. So these two programs are quite simple, guys, right? The conditions are pretty simple. We use modulus operator, we used greater than or less than sign, and that's quite easy to use, right? So let's move on to the next program, which is a bit tricky than these two. So what we'll do in our next program is we'll check if a number is positive or negative, and at the same time we'll check for even and odd also. If we are giving any number as input, like let's suppose we are using 5, we'll check if the number is positive or negative and odd or even. So we'll do this simultaneously. Let's move on to this program. So there are two ways to check whether a number is positive or negative and odd or even. So the two methods, we'll discuss them one by one. The first one here is to use nested if, and the another one is when we use logical operators along with the if else if statement. So this one here you can see right in front of your screen is the nested if method. So here you can see we have used the if statement. We have given one more condition inside another if statement. So first it will check whether a number is positive or not. For x greater than 0, it will check if the number x is greater than 0. Then if yes, if it will find it that yes, this number is greater than 0, then it will move on to the nested if and it will check for odd or even. For odd number and even number, it will check if it finds that the number is even, it will print that the number is positive and even. If the number is not even, it will print the number is positive and odd. So here you can see the difference. What the interpreter is doing is it will check for the number as positive, and if the number is positive, then it will move on to the nested if and check for the even or odd. So if it finds that the number is even, it will print positive and even, otherwise it will print positive and odd. Then it will move on to the next condition, which is for negative number. If x is less than 0, then it will again move to the nested if and it will check for even and odd. So if it finds that the number is even, it will print negative and even, otherwise it will print negative and odd. And the last condition is for the number 0. Let's try to find out the output of this. And what we'll do, we'll update the value of x as 8. So save it now. Here it says the positive and even. So 8 is a positive number and even as well. Let's update the value of x as -5. Save it now. It says negative and odd number. -5 is a negative odd number, right? So that's how it will check for positive or negative and odd or even. So we are doing both the things simultaneously in a program. We have an alternate method as well. Here you can see on your screen we have written a program, and here we have taken a variable x. The functioning of both the programs is same. Both of these programs will check for positive or negative and odd or even. So here you can see I have taken a variable x. Let's say the value of x is 7. It will check for x greater than 0 and x mod 2 is equals to 0. So we have 4 different conditions, right? A number is greater than 0, that means a number is positive and even. A number is positive and odd. A number is negative and even. A number is negative and odd. And the final one is a number is 0. Okay, we have 5 conditions and we have to specify these 4 conditions here. So here you can see we are using the logical AND operator. This means it will print this statement. Let's suppose for this statement, it will print this only if both the conditions are true, right? If the value x is holding is both greater than 0 and an even number. So if you try to find out the output now, save it and see, here it says number is positive and odd. So the number 7 is greater than 0, but the number 7 is not an even number. That's why this line is not there on the browser. It will print this line because the number is positive and odd, right? The switch case is another conditional control statement, just like the if-else control statement. There's a difference between the usage of if-else and switch case statement. Now both if-else and switch case works with conditions, and we have to choose when to use switch case over if-else. Switch case is generally preferred over the if-else when there is n number of test cases present, or we can say when we are working with a lot of conditions. Let's say we are working on a program and you ask the user for an input between 50 and 100, a numeric input basically. And in the output, we have to print the textual form of that number. Suppose if the user enters 75, right? The output will be like this. So what we are doing, we are taking a number from the user as an input and we are printing the textual form of that number, right? So we can use the if-else or we can say else-if control statement, but the program will be so lengthy and not so clean. Also, switch case is much more efficient than if-else when it comes to execution time. Like if we have n number of conditions, then using switch case is a better option. We'll get to know why in a bit. So let's move on to the programming part, and today we'll write a program where we have to find the month in a year by accepting its number. So we have 12 months in a year. For example, if we enter 4, then the output will be April. And if we enter 8, then the output will be August, because August is the 8th month of the year, right? So I hope you guys are clear with the question. Of course, we can do this program with the help of if-else statement, but we discussed earlier that using if-else in such cases is not efficient, right? We can use switch case in this scenario. So let's create a variable first. Let's say we are creating a variable where month, and you can give any value to this variable from 1 to 12. You can provide it with any initial value. So let's create a variable first. Let's say we are creating a variable where month, and the value we are providing it 1 as the hardcore initial value. For simplicity, again we are not taking the input from the user or from the browser. To do so, we have to first go through the DOM manipulations, and we'll go through it in later videos. So let's start with the switch case now. The syntax for switch case is quite simple. Just write down switch and pass the variable month. So we have to check in this round bracket for the variable month, because you know any value you are providing to month, the switch will check the program accordingly. So for now we have taken the value as 1 for month. We can take any value, like we can take 3, we can take 11, 12 or any value other than 1 to 12 as well. So whatever value you are providing to the variable, you can provide the variable to the switch statement, right? So next up we have an open and a curly braces. For the body of the switch case, we have to test for 12 different conditions inside this, starting from 1 to 12, right? So the syntax goes like this. You have to write case and then the value month variable might hold, like 1, 2, 3 and so on, followed by a colon, right? So we have to write the value 1 and a colon, not a semicolon but a colon. Keep this thing in mind, guys. And below that we are going to write what we want when the value is 1, like what the output we want when the value is 1. So we have to write document dot write and whatever you want as the output. Like for 1, the first month is January, so we are writing here January and a semicolon. So if the value of the month is 1, you will get the output as January. Save it, and here you can see the output is January. Let me increase the font size for this as well. So here you can see the output is January, right? Next, we'll use a break statement. If you guys remember, we discussed the break statement in the control statements video, right? The break statement is not actually a type of control statement, but it assists other control statements, or we can say it helps us manage the control statements, right? What this statement does is, once we are done with our output, we get our output, right? Once we are done with case 1, we get our output as January. This break statement helps us to come out of the switch case. So to understand this much better, let's write here one more case. So let's say we are writing here one more case as case 2, and the output will be document dot write. The second month is February, right? And February here I can write. So we'll include one break here, like we'll come in the first case and include a break statement. So here's how you can write a break statement, how you can include a break statement in your code. So let's check the output now. So for now it says January. So if we don't include this break statement here, when the interpreter will execute this code and it will see that the case is 1, right? So it will print January, but it will print other statements as well. So for example, if we remove this break statement and save it now, see, you can see here the output as January and February. January and February both are getting printed on the output. So we need a break statement to break it here. See, the value is 1, and if we include break statement here, the moment the interpreter finds the answer, the correct answer as January, it will come out of the switch case. So I hope you guys are getting this. Similarly, we'll write all the cases for all the months. Let me show you all the cases. So here you can see on your screen that we have 12 different cases from 1 to 12, one for each month, depending on the value the variable month is holding, right? The output will be June if the value is 6, and if we say 10, the output will be October, and so on and so forth. Now, the question here is, what if we try to write a random value for the variable month? By random value, we mean that if we try to write any value other than these 12 values from 1 to 12, if we leave these values, then if we try to write another value, like if we write here 13, so what will be the output now? Let's save it and see. There's no output, and there might be no error for this as well. So if you try to check for an error, go to inspect and check out. See, there's no error, right? So in that case, we have one more case, like we have default case. So let me show you how to include default in your program. What you have to do is write here default with a colon and write document dot write, and let's suppose we are writing here wrong input. What is happening is, let's try to run this program first. press Ctrl plus S, and now you can see it says wrong input for value 13. So what is happening is the switch case will first check these 12 cases, and any value other than 1 to 12 will get the output as wrong input. It works the same as the else statement, right? In else statement, we don't need to specify any particular condition. Any condition other than the if condition or else if condition will fall inside the else statement. It's not necessary to add default in your program. It's just if you want to give the user a prompt that he has entered a wrong value. So you must include this default case in your program every time while using switch case, because it's quite useful, you know. Okay, so this is the complete program to find out the month by accepting its number. If you try 6 and save it now, it will say June. If you try 10, save it, it will say October. If we try 12, save it, it will say December. So I hope this is clear to you guys. Next up, let's discuss about switch case in detail, because the switch case in JavaScript works differently from other languages. Like switch case is also present in C++ and Java, but in JavaScript it is a bit different. So in JavaScript, switch case can accept numbers, it can accept strings and boolean values as well. Now let's have a look at how the switch case works with string values. So here is an example of string values. You can see the value variable month is holding is June, right? And you can use this string in case as well. So here you have to give the case as a string value, right? Because we are using switch case statement with strings. So the first case here is when the value will be June, the output should be 6th month. And when the value is July, the output will be 7th month. So let's check it out if this is working or not. Let's save this program and see. For June, it says 6th month. And similarly, we can check it for July as well. Let's check for July. Save it and see, it says 7th month. You can include the default case as well if you want to. It will be similar, like there's no difference for default case. Let me show you how. We'll write here wrong input. And save it, and now let's try to change the value here. Let's say we are using May. Save it and see, it says wrong input. What if we use a numerical value here? Let's try to use 2. Save it now, it says wrong input for 2 as well. It will give you the output when the value is either June or July. So any other value you try to use here, it will give the output as wrong input. In the same way, it works for Boolean values as well. Let me show you how it works for Boolean values. So what you have to do, instead of 2, you have to give here a Boolean value. Let's suppose you are writing here true. And for true, you have to change the case as well. For true, you have to change the output as, let's say for true, the output will be 1. Okay, and similarly for false, the output should be 0. And the output should be wrong input for any other case, right? So save it now and see. Here for true, it says 1. The output you can see here is 1. And if you try to do the same for false, like let's write here false. And now try to check the output. See, here it says 0. You can see the output is correct, right? Our first iterative control statement, that is the for loop in JavaScript. So iterative statements or looping statements, we can say, are used when we want to perform an activity multiple times or n number of times. So we don't have to copy paste that code every time, but we can use iterative statements. Using iterative statements will make our code clean and definitely more efficient. So we have 4 different types of iterative control statements, right? We discussed it in the previous video. Let's move on to for loop, which is a first iterative control statement, and we'll move on to the programming part directly. So before we start, one thing to keep in mind, guys, is that we use for loop when we are clear with the number of iterations in advance. So let's start with our first program. In this program, we will print the multiplication table of 10 from 10 into 1 to 10 into 10. Let's start with coding. First we write the for keyword, and then we have three different parts. We have the initialization, which is separated by a semicolon. Next up we have the condition, and finally we have the increment or decrement. So this is the syntax for loop. Next up we have the open and the closed curly braces for the body of for loop. We'll change these three values, as these are not the actual values, right? Our parameters for these three different parts of the loop are going to be different. So let me comment this one. So what we'll do, we'll leave it here only. We'll change it from here. So in the initialization part, what we are going to do is we'll create a variable. Let's say we are creating a variable where a and the initial value of a will be 1. This initialization happens only one time when the for loop begins. We have to be careful about the condition we are going to use, because sometimes what happens is the loop runs forever because of a wrong condition, which will ultimately crash our program. So in the condition, what we have to do is we have to give a value as in for how long our for loop should execute. Here in this case, we want to print the table of 10, right? We want to have 10 iterations. So what it will do, it will start from a equals to 1 and it will go till this final condition. So let's suppose we are writing here a less than equals to 10. It will start from a equals to 1 and it will go till a less than or equals to 10. And next up we'll use the increment operator. We want to increment the value of a by 1 every time, right? So we'll use increment operator, a plus plus, or we can say a equals to a plus 1. Both are the same things, right? So here the condition will be like this: for variable a equals to 1, a less than equals to 10 and a plus plus. So here you can see the loop will execute from a equals to 1 till a equals to 10, and the value will be increased by 1 every time because we have used the increment operator, right? Next up, the body of for loop will go like, so what we want to print here, we want to print the table of 10, right? So we'll use document dot write, and inside document dot write we'll use the h1 tag. So what we want to do is we want to print the table of 10, right? So we'll multiply 10 by a. For every iteration the value of a will be multiplied by 10 and then it will be printed on the browser. So we'll close the h1 tag here in the semicolon. So here you can see we have printed 10 into a. Let's save it and check the output first, and then we'll look at the execution flow of this program. See, here the multiplication table of 10 is printed on the browser. You can see 10, 20, 30, 40, so on and so forth till 100. So what is happening is, firstly, the for loop is also known as the entry control loop. It means that the condition is checked initially. The first time the for loop runs, we perform initialization only once. So here the value stored at variable a is 1. Initially the value is 1. Next up it will check for a less than equals to 10. Is a, which is 1, is 1 less than equals to 10? Then true. The control will be shifted to document.write and it will print 10 into the value of a is 1, right? So it will print 10 here. Next thing, it will go for the increment and the value of a will be changed to 2 from 1. 1 plus 1, or we can say 1 equals to 1 plus 1, right? So it will be 2. Now next thing, it will leave this now because the initialization happens only once. Now it will go for the condition directly. Now it will check for is 2 less than or equals to 10. If yes, then again the control will be shifted here and it will print 10 into 2 because the value of a is 2 now. And after that it will print 20 here, and after that the value of a will be increased to 3 because we have used a plus plus. Then it will check for 3, is 3 less than 10, and same thing will happen, it will print 30 and so on and so forth till the value of a is 10. Now if the value of a is 10, it will print 100, right? And when the value is incremented, it will become 11. So what will happen? Now it will check for 11 less than equals to 10. No, we know that 11 is not less than equal to 10, right? Then it comes out of the loop and it will print nothing after that. So this is the basic working of the for loop. We'll go through one more program wherein we'll print the odd numbers between 1 and 10. So what are odd numbers? Odd numbers are those numbers which are not divisible by 2, right? So we have the odd numbers as 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and we want to print them. So the difference between each number is of 2. The 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 till 9, right? So what we have to do is we have to write here a plus equals to 2. We have to increase the value of a by 2. And instead of writing here 10 into a, because this time we don't want to print any multiplication table, we want to print a number only, right? So we'll use a only. Save it and check the output. It says 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So these are the odd numbers present between 1 and 10. Keep one thing in mind, that you have to give the condition wisely every time. So next up we have the while loop. Like the for loop, while loop is also an entry control loop, which means that the condition will be checked first. So the question here is how while loop is different from the for loop. If you guys remember, when we discussed that we must know the exact number of iterations, then only we can use the for loop, right? So the while loop is preferred when we are not aware of the number of iterations, or we can say we don't know if the condition will be true for a certain number of times. We'll start with the programming part now, and then we will discuss more about when to use while loop over for loop. So let's start with the program. In this particular program, we will print odd numbers up to a specific number. Let's say we want to print all the odd numbers up to 50. So we want to print all the odd numbers from 1 till 50, right? We came across the same program in the previous video as well, but this time we will use the while loop instead of for loop. So the syntax for the while loop is relatively easy to use. The code goes like, we start with the while keyword, then opening and closing round brackets, and finally the body of while loop in curly braces. If you guys remember from the previous video wherein we used the for loop, we had 3 different parts, right? We had the initialization, we had conditions, and the increment decrement part. Here we have only one condition, and until this condition holds true, the while loop will be executed. For example, here we want to print all the odd numbers from 1 to 50, right? So we'll first initialize a variable. Let's initialize a variable first. Let's say we have a variable x and the value of x will be 1. We used here 1 because 1 is the very first odd number, right? After that, inside the condition, what we want to do is we want to print the odd numbers up to 50. So while the condition will be like while x less than equals to 50. So the loop will go till x is less than or equals to 50. Or we can say x less than 50. That depends on us if we want to check for 50 or not. So the odd numbers will go like 1, and then we have 3, then we have 5, then we have 7, and up to 50. So the last odd number will be 49. So inside the while loop, we will print the value of x. So here we will print the value of x. Let's print it. Document.write. And inside this, we will print the value of x inside the h1 tag. Suppose we try to run this program now. It will go on an infinite loop. And the reason for this is we are not doing anything to increment the value of x. Just like in for loop, if you remember, we had the initialization first. We had the initialization here as well. Then we had the condition. We have a condition here as well. And then finally it has an increment or decrement part, right? So here we don't have that same increment or decrement part. We have to do it separately. So we'll increment the value of x here only. So here we will write x plus equals to 2, or we can say it is same as x equals to x plus 2. You guys are aware of it, right? So the reason is simple, because we want to go from 1 to 3 to 5 and so on. That's why we use x plus equals to 2. We incremented the value of x by 2. Save it here and let's check the output. So here you can see it says 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and so on and so forth till 49. So 49 is the last odd number before 50. because we are checking between 1 and 50, right? So 49 is the last odd number. Let me show you how the program goes into an infinite loop. So for that, what we have to do, we will comment this whole line here. Let's check the output now, save it, and here you can see it is refreshing forever. And this is basically how a program in an infinite loop looks like. The output of this program is the program will ultimately crash. So what we have to do, we have to open a new tab and then again we have to run the program with correct increment part. So here you can see, you can wait for it to become responsive or exit the page. So here you can see we have all the odd numbers from 1 up to 50 and the last one is 49. Coming back to the difference between the while loop and the for loop. We did the same program previously, right? Using the for loop. So where to use while loop over for loop? So consider a scenario where we are taking input from the user and the input from the user is y. We want to do something. Let's say we want to print something on the screen. Or if the input from the user is n, we want the process to be stopped. We can give the condition in the while loop, which will go like when the character y becomes n, the process will be stopped. We'll go through one such program once we are done with the DOM manipulation part, wherein we take the input from the user. Let's move on to the do while loop in JavaScript. In the previous videos, we have already discussed that both for loop and the while loop are entry control loop. That means the conditions are checked first, right? But the do while loop is a bit different, or we can say it is an exit control loop, wherein the condition is checked after the execution of the loop's body. Thus, an exit control loop executes at least once. Even if the test condition fails, or we can say the condition is wrong, the loop will execute once. Using the do while loop is relatively easy. It seems like we are giving the system a command to do something while the condition is something. So let's start with the syntax now. The syntax goes like this. We write the keyword do and we have a pair of curly braces for the body of the loop. And after that we have the while keyword and here we will write the condition. Make sure you are using the semicolon after the while loop. It's necessary while using do while loop. Keep this thing in mind. So we have two parts in the do while loop, the do part and the while part, or we can say the condition part. While part is the part where we write the condition. So let's define a variable first. Let's say we are using a variable. We are using a variable x and the value of x will be 5. So here we have taken 5 as a random value. You can take 1 as well. Now inside the condition part of the do while loop, this is the condition part where we are using the while keyword. So we'll give a condition. Let's say we are using while x greater than 5. It will check for the condition that if the value of x is greater than 5 or if the value of x is smaller than or equal to 5, it will come out of the loop. In the do part, we will write what we want to do. Let's say we want to print a single sentence here. We write document.write and whatever sentence we want to write. Let's say we are using welcome to SimpliCode. So here you might be thinking that the condition is false, but the condition will be checked after the first iteration in the do while loop. So no matter what the condition is, the first iteration will happen always. So if we try to save this program and let's try to run this. Here you can see the output is welcome to SimpliCode. A single line is printed. What is happening here is, although the condition we used was wrong, but the condition will be checked only after the first iteration. When the do while loop will perform this particular statement, when the document.write will be performed, after that it will check for the condition if x is greater than 5 or not. If we use here 6 instead of 5, let's try to write here 6 instead of 5, and if we run this program now, it will go into an infinite loop because we are not performing the increment decrement operator here, right? As we have discussed in the previous videos, the importance of increment decrement part. So we need to do it here after the document.write part. So what we'll do here, we'll write x minus minus. Today we are using x minus minus, and for the other two loops we use the plus increment operator, right? So the x minus minus is the same as x equals to x minus 1. Let's check the output now. Save it. Here you can see the output is still welcome to SimpliCode. The execution flow of this program will be like, it will first perform the iteration before checking the condition. and it will print here welcome to SimpliCode for the first time. When the loop will start executing, it will first perform this statement and it will write here welcome to SimpliCode. So then it will perform x minus minus, means the value of x is now 5 because we are decrementing the value by 1. So when the value of x is 5, then it will check for the condition if x is greater than 5 or not. So here we can see clearly x is not greater than 5 because x equals to 5 and it is equals to 5, right? So it will come out of the loop. Let's make few changes in the code here. Suppose we use here 10 instead of 6 now. And let's print the value of x as well. It will be easy for you to understand. So we'll print here x and we'll use a space so that it will be clear for you. We'll use here the br tag, and now let's try to run this program. Here you can see the output goes from 10 to 6 and it prints welcome to SimpliCode every time. Right? If you guys are wondering where we use the do while loop, sometimes it may happen that even though the condition is false, but we have to execute that command. We use the do while loop when we want the code to output some sort of menu to the user or to generate the menu at least once. We'll get to know about the do while loop in future videos when we create a program specifically for the do while loop. This video is just a syntax demonstration. We'll go through the examples of all the 3 loops present in JavaScript. So today we have 3 different problems for 3 separate loops, right? We'll go through each of the problems and we'll discuss the execution flow for each loop we'll go through. So let's start this session with the first problem statement. So the first problem statement goes like this. So here we have to write a program to check whether a number is prime or not. I hope you guys are aware of what prime numbers are, right? So a prime number is a positive number that is only divisible by 1 and itself. For example, 2, 3, 5 and we have 7 and 11. These are the first few prime numbers, right? If we take an example, let's say we are taking an example of 7. So 7 is a number which is divisible by 1 and 7 only. No other number can divide 7, right? So here in this code, we have to check whether a number is prime or not. So let me take you through the code. So here is the code to check whether a number is a prime number or not. Let me take you through this first. So we have a variable number and the value of variable number can be any random value, like any number you want to check if the number is prime number or not. You can give that value to the variable number. So here we have taken 83. Next up we have a variable is prime whose value is a boolean value, right? It can be true for a prime number or it can be false for a non-prime number. So we have used comments in this program to make it easier for you guys to understand. So here we have used the if statement to check if the number is 1 because we know that 1 is neither a prime number nor a composite number, right? So we have to check if the user enters the value 1 or if we are giving the value 1, we have to check for it. So if user enters the value 1, it will print this statement that 1 is neither prime nor composite. Here in else if we are checking if the value of number is greater than 1 or not. So if the value of number is greater than 1, the control will be shifted to for loop present inside the else if statement, right? Here you can see we have the for loop here. The control will be shifted to this for loop. So here you can see we have initialized a variable I and the initial value is set to 2. That's because any prime number is divisible by 1 as well, right? So it won't make any sense to include 1 here. We'll start from 2 and we'll check until the value of I becomes half of the value of number. So if we take an example of 10, we'll check until 5 because you know any number greater than 5 won't divide 10, right? It's practically not possible. So we'll check for number by 2 or we can say we'll check till 5 only. And the value will be increased by 1 every time. Till now I hope you guys are aware of how to use for loop and why we are using for loop here. We can do the same program using while loop as well, but to make it more clear how to use for loop, we are doing this program with the help of for loop. So then we have the I++, or we can say we have increased the value of I by 1 after every iteration until the value of I becomes half of the number. So the condition number percent I equals to 0. So here is the main condition to check if the number is divisible by I or not. So the execution will be like, if we are taking here a number 10, it will start from 2 and it will check if the remainder is 0 or not. So if the remainder is 0, then the value of is prime will be changed to false and it will come out of the loop. Next, it will check for the value of is prime if the value of is prime is true or not. Here you can see if the value of is prime is true, then it will print n, or we can say then it will print that the number is a prime number, else it will print that the number is not a prime number if the value of is prime is false. For example, when we took the example of number as 10, so the value of is prime will be changed to false because 10 divides by 2 is equals to 0, or we can say the remainder will be 0. So the value of is prime will be changed to false, and for false it will print number is not a prime number. So at last we will check if the number is less than 1. If the number entered by the user or any other number we have taken, like if we take here -5, so it will print the number is not a prime number, because by the usual definition of prime numbers, any negative number cannot be a prime number. That's a usual definition, right? So we have to keep this thing in mind, and here in this else loop we'll print that if any negative number is entered, we'll make sure that the program gives the output that the number is not a prime number. So let's try to run this program and check the output. Let's save this program, and the output says 83 is a prime number, as 83 is not divisible by any number except 1 and 83. For example, if we take here any number which is divisible by, so let's say we are taking 75. Save it now and see, it says 75 is not a prime number. Okay, here's a spelling mistake. It says 75 is a not prime number. So here we'll correct this. So we are done with it and save it now. Now it says 75 is not a prime number, as 75 is divisible by numbers other than 1 and itself, right? It is divisible by 3, it is divisible by 5, 15 and 25 as well. All these numbers divide 75 basically. So let's take a different value here. Let's say we are taking -7. Let's change the value here as, or we can take it as -75. Let's save it now. So it says the number is not a prime number. Or if we want to try for 1 as well, let's take it as 1. And let's check the output now. So it says 1 is neither prime nor composite number, because we have given here the condition if number is equals to 1, then it will print that 1 is neither a prime nor a composite number. You can try this program with the help of other loops as well. So let's move on to the second problem statement, but before that let me take you through the same program using the while loop. So here you can see we have used the while loop for the same instead of for loop. Here you can see we have used while I less than a number by 2, and we have given the increment condition here, and we have initialized the value of I at the start of the program. So if we try to run this program, it will give us the same output. There will be no change in the output. So we can use while loop as well. So we'll use the while loop in other program. Let's move on to the second problem statement. So in this example, we'll learn to write a program in JavaScript to check whether a number is an Armstrong number or not. So we'll do this with the help of while loop. Let's have a look at how to implement this program. Before proceeding to the coding part, let's have a look at what is an Armstrong number. So an Armstrong number of 3 digits is an integer such that the sum of the cubes of its digits is equal to the number itself. So for example, 153 is an Armstrong number since 1 into 1 into 1, it means the cube of the digit 1 plus the cube of 5, that is 5 into 5 into 5, which is equal to 125, and the cube of 3, which is 3 3s are 9 and 9 3s are 27. So it will go like 125 plus 27 plus 1, so which is equal to 153. So an Armstrong number of 3 digits is an integer such that the sum of the cubes of its digits is equal to the number itself. So here we have the code for the same. This is the code to check whether the number is an Armstrong number or not. So here we have taken a variable and the value is 153. The value of the variable number is 153, right? Because we already know that 153 is an Armstrong number. There are few more numbers like 371 is also an Armstrong number. Next up, we have taken a variable sum and the initial value of sum is 0. We have used the variable sum to store the value of the cubes. And next up, we have a temporary variable so that we can break a 3-digit number, and we need the number after all this program, all these loops and all. We'll need the number, we'll need the original number to compare it with the sum of the cubes, which will be held in sum. So but we need to break the number as well, right? So we need a temporary variable to break it. Here we use the while loop, and the loop will run until the value of variable temp is greater than 0. So the initial value of temp will be 153 here. In this particular case, the initial value will be 153, and the loop will run until the value of 153 is greater than 0. Next up, we have a variable remainder that stores the last digit's value as we are dividing 153 by 10. So the remainder here will be 3. So the value saved at variable remainder will be 3 for the first time. Then what will happen will we are updating the value of sum, and the new value of sum will be 0 plus 3 into 3 into 3. So 3 3s are 9 and 9 3s are 27. So the updated value of sum will be 27. Next up, we are removing the last digit from the number. So for example, we have here 153, and if we divide 153 by 10, the answer will be 15.3. That's why we are using here %, because what % will do, it will convert the float value into an integer. So if we try to perform a simple divide in JavaScript, like if we try to divide 153 by 10, it will give us 15.3. It will give us a float value, but we want an integer value, right? So % will change this value to the nearest integer. So 15.3, the nearest integer will be 15. So the new value of temp will be 15. Then again this loop will be executed, and for this time the variable remainder will hold the value of 15 modulus 10, and the remainder will be 5, right? So the new value of remainder is 5, and the value of sum is 27 plus 5 into 5 into 5, which is 27 plus 125, right? So the new value of sum will be 152. And then again it will go to the temp and it will divide 15 by 10, and it will change the value to an integer. So 1.5 will be changed to 1. And next up, the final value of temp is 1, which is greater than 0, right? So it will divide 10 by 1 and the remainder will be 1. So next up, it will add 152 plus 1 into 1 into 1, that is 153, right? And then it will divide 1 by 10 using the %, but this time the value will be 0 because there's no remainder, right? Next up, we'll compare the value of the sum and the number variable. So the sum variable here, it is holding the value as 153. We break this number into 3 different parts. Then we took the cube of these 3 numbers and added them. So the final value of the variable sum is 153, and the initial value of number, or we can say the value we gave to the variable number, is 153. So right, it will print here that 153 is an Armstrong number. Or if we use any other number instead of 153, let's suppose we are using 121. So it will print 121 is not an Armstrong number. Let's check out the output once. Let's save it and see the output here is 153 is an Armstrong number. So if we change the value of 153 to 121. So let's check the output now. It says 121 is not an Armstrong number. Why? Because if we take the cube of each of the digit and we'll add them, suppose the answer here will be 10, because the cube of 1 is 1 and the cube of 2 is 8 and the cube of the final one is 1. So 8 plus 1 is equals to 10. So that's why 121 is not an Armstrong number. Let's move on to our last problem statement, where we'll use the do while loop to find the factorial of a number. So here's the problem statement where we'll have to write a program to find the factorial of a number. So factorial of an integer is the product of an integer and all the integers below it, or we can say before it till 1. So if we take an example of 5, so the factorial of 5 will be, it will multiply each number before it. If we take 5, the factorial will be 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. Or if we don't include 1, that's totally fine. So this program is pretty simple as compared to the previous two we did. So this is a small one too. Let me take you through this. So here we have the program. And here we have three variables, right? We have a variable I, which is initialized as 1. Then we have a variable n, which is 5. And then we have a variable f, whose value is 1. F is for factorial and n is for number we want to check the factorial of, and I is for checking the condition. So here what we will do, we'll use a loop where if we, for example, if we are taking 5, then the loop will go from 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 5 from 1 to that number. It's not like if we are using from 5 towards 1, but we are going from 1 towards 5. The answer will be same, right? Because we are multiplying all the numbers in both the cases. So here we took 5 as the number. Next up we have a variable f, and the value of f is also 1, as you know. So here we are using the do while loop. For the first iteration it will perform this. So the value of f for the first iteration will be f equals to f into I, which means f equals to 1 into 1, which is 1. So the value of I will be increased and it will become 2. And now it will check for while 2 is less than equals to n. Yes, 2 is less than n. So it will again go up and it will update the value of f, and the new value of f will be 1 into 2, that is 2. Then again the value will be increased and it will become 3, and then it will change the value of f as well. If it will become 6 and the value of I will become 4, then it will check if 4 is less than 5. Yes, 4 is less than 5. And then it will multiply 4 with 6 because the value of f was 6, right? So 4 into 6, it will become 24. And then finally the value of I will be 5. And it will check if the value of I is less than or equals to 5, right? While I is less than equals to 5. Yes, that's true, because now 5 is equals to 5. And it will again execute the loop, and the value of f will be 24 into 5, which is 120. And then again the value of I will be increased. Now it will become 6, which is greater than 5. So it will come out of the loop and it will print the factorial of a number. So let's save this program. So the factorial of 5 is 120, because see here we have used the factorial of n. N is 5 and the factorial is 120. So if we try to give any other number here other than 5, let's say we are using here 10. Save it. It says the factorial is 3628800, or it's 36,28,800. So if you try to multiply 10 into 9 into 8 into 7 so on till 2, or we can say 1, the answer will be this. You can check it, you can Google it, or you can go through it in your calculator. So hope you guys got it. With this we are done with loops in JavaScript. The typical definition of function states that to work in a proper or in a particular way. Similarly, functions in JavaScript are a block of code that is used to perform a specific task. In this particular video, we will go through the syntax and usage of functions. So a function has a particular name and we can reuse that block of code again and again in an entire program. For example, let's suppose that we have to add two numbers in a program. That's a basic program, right? Sum of two numbers. So let's write the code first. So we are going to take a variable x and the value of x will be 10. Then again we are going to take a variable y and the value of y will be 5. Lastly, we are going to take a variable total and the value of total will be x plus y. So the last thing we are going to do is we are going to print this on a browser. So here we are done with our program. We are done with adding two numbers. So let's save it and check the output. See, the output here says 15. So what is happening is the value of x plus y, which is 10 plus 5, is stored in the variable total, and we are displaying total on a browser. So that's a very basic program, right? Now consider a scenario where we have to do this addition for n number of times at different intervals. So we have to perform the same task of addition at different intervals. So in that case, what we can do is we can copy paste this same code repeatedly, but the length of the program will increase because of that, right? And it doesn't make any sense to copy paste the same code again and again. So this is where functions come into play. With the help of functions, we can create a separate function to do this particular task, and we can call that function again and again. I'll take you through it. So basically a function has three parts. We'll go through each of them. A function has function declaration, then it has function definition, and then finally it has function calling. So we'll perform this same program of adding two numbers. We'll add two numbers, but this time we'll use the concept of functions. So we'll use this whole code. We are going to use it inside the function. So let's move on and see how the function looks like, how the syntax of function looks like. So we use the keyword function, and then we have the function name. So let's suppose here we are naming the function as sum. Then we have the opening and closing round brackets, which denotes that this is a function. This is the way to write a function. Next up, we have a pair of curly braces for the body of the function. So this is the basic syntax of how a function looks like. The naming convention for functions is the same as we had for variables in JavaScript. If you guys remember, we have already discussed this naming convention of variables. So this is the basic structure of a function. So now we'll cut this whole code and we'll paste it here inside the function. Right? So we are done with it. We are done with our functions. First part. First we declared a function with name sum. Then we are done with the definition of function. Now, what if we try to run this program? Let's save this program and see. It is not printing anything on screen. But if you try to check out for any errors, it won't show any errors. See, there is no error in this program. This is happening because we haven't called the function yet, right? So to call the function, we have to write a single word. Just write sum with opening and closing round brackets and save it now. Now you can see the output here is 15. So this is known as function calling. The program already knows that there is a function by the name sum. It will go and check for the same if the function is there or not. If the program finds it, it will execute the function. Next up, a function can also have parameters. What do I mean by parameters is we don't have to declare these variables, variable x and variable y here. Instead of declaring them here, we can pass these values to the function. Let's say we are passing x and y here, or we can pass a and b, any variable you want to pass, you can pass it here. Now we can remove these variable x and variable y. We have to write here where, because we still need the variable total. And next up, we have to pass the value for these variables when we call the function. So we have to pass the values here. Let's say we are passing the values as 4 and 3. So let's try to run this program now and see if it works. Let's save it and see. You can see here the output as 7. We can also pass strings over here. So instead of 4, if we try to pass any string, let's say we are passing welcome to, and instead of 3, we'll pass SimpliCode. Right? Now let's save this program and see the output. It says welcome to SimpliCode. We don't have to worry about the data type we'll use here because JavaScript is a loosely typed language, right? So the function will automatically adapt to the data type according to the value we will pass during the function call. Here in this code, variable x holds the value welcome to, and the variable y is having SimpliCode allocated to them dynamically. So this is what is known as parameter passing in functions. let's move on and discuss the return types in functions. So a function can also return a value. Right now, we can see that a function is doing the printing task. What if we remove this document.write from here and we'll paste it somewhere else on the program outside the function? So we'll paste it here, right? Now the function will perform addition only. It won't print anything. It will just perform the addition. Let's save this and see there's nothing. So if we try to check for error, it says total is not defined because total is defined inside the function. This is because of the concept of local and global variable. We'll discuss this concept in upcoming video. So here you can see it says total is not defined, right? So now what we have to do is we have to write here return total. So now the function will return the value of total outside. What this return statement does is whenever we call the function, as you can see here, we are calling the function from outside and we are passing the parameters as welcome to and SimpliCode, right? So these parameters will go as X and Y and we are getting the concatenation of welcome to SimpliCode, right? So when this return statement comes into function, the value of this total variable will be given out of the function. So there has to be a particular variable to hold the value returned by the function. We'll use a variable here. Let's say we are using the variable output. And in the RHS, we are calling the function. So we have an equals to between the LHS and RHS. That's because when we are calling the function, it will return a value. And the assignment is done from right to left in the case of an assignment operator. If you guys remember, we came across this, that whenever we are using an assignment operator, the assignment will be done from right towards the left. So whatever value the function will return upon calling will be assigned to the variable output. In this program, we are passing welcome to and SimpliCode, right? So let's change these two values now. We'll change them to a numerical value. Let's say we are using here 35 and instead of SimpliCode we'll use here 15 and we are going to print here output on the browser because the variable output is holding the value returned by the function, right? So let's save it now and see the output is 50. Okay guys, so this was the syntax demonstration of functions in JavaScript with a quick small program. Of course, function is a very detailed topic and we will go through it as we move ahead in this series.
So that wraps today's session on JavaScript. We hope you had a lot to learn and will be on the lookout for any suggestion or doubts in the comment section below. So if you have any queries, you know what to do. Hope to catch you guys back in the next part. Thank you so much for being here today. Stay tuned to SimpliCode and keep coding.